You are still with Election Watch as hashtag Namibia decides 2024. This is obviously a pivotal election. We've been seeing many people filing up, getting ready to cast their votes. Now, in an election such as this, there's one thing that you can't help but celebrate, which is having multiple numbers. But what does that come with? A sense of management that is very crucial, because it's a thin line between being able to accommodate those people and finding our timelines stretched beyond what is tenable. So here is Frank Stephan talking about the status with regards to how the voting is going and what it could mean with regards to the time.
Hi, my name is Frank Stephan. I'm obviously of Network Media Hub, and as you can see, I've got this Namibia Votes 2024, the polling stations list that was published by ECN. And so what we've done is we've quickly gone through the Windhoek stations. I suppose you can focus in on it a bit, and you will see a lot of scribbling there. And what I basically did is I counted all the fixed stations that we've got in Windhoek. So please note I'm leaving out the mobile stations, which are 14. But so what I want to show you quickly, in Khomas, we've got 282,000 registered voters. If I want to see now how they would be serviced by the fixed stations, which haven't been increased since independence, even though our population has basically doubled, we sit with 175 stations all in the Khomas area, actually in the Windhoek area, I must correct. Okay, and so we spoke to a couple of people. Some people say it takes about 5 minutes to handle one voter. The next one says it's one person per every 2 minutes. So I've just worked through and I said, okay, let's accept it for a moment that it's 30 people in an hour that they can handle on the 2-minute principle. Then we've got 420 people in a period of 14 hours, obviously thinking of 7 o'clock until 2100 tonight. So 14 hours. So if I took 175 polling stations times these 420 people, I come to 73,500. Now, if I take that number and I oppose it to the 282, that would mean 26% of our people will only be able to vote, simply because the time doesn't allow for more. And what people have been criticizing, we've been speaking, for example, to IPC, who said in advance that they said, people, we don't mind the stations, but make sure that we've got more than just one desk that handles people, have multiple rows. Something that McHenry Venani also confirmed in a voice note. We said it should be something similar to India, where you've got more than one row at a polling station. Fact is, up to now, we've only seen once each station having one central point where people will go through. And that makes us believe that 420 is true. And I can actually tell you why I think so, because at this point, we spoke to somebody in the road just now, a moment ago. He's been standing there for the whole morning, and he says, you will not believe it, they only processed 200 people that I counted. And we're halfway through the day, so if it's 200, it's close to half of what I calculated here. Even if we up this to 500 people, I worked it out, it comes to 30%. Nowhere close to enough votes having been handed in by the close of business tonight at 2100. So we would urge the ECN to urgently reconsider their timing and allow people to continue voting tomorrow. Just an idea. Anyway, see you later.
Certainly an interesting observation there by Frank Stephan. So we're going to see if the ECN is going to be able to mitigate this situation, naturally assuming that things don't go out of hand, but however they transpire, we will be informing you. And some other breaking news, rather disturbing, is that some mothers have been using babies to get further in the queues, which has caused a bit of a ruckus, and this is in the Omaheke region. Elani Smith is reporting straight from there as the Deputy Commissioner for Crime was addressing the issue.
It's a big unfair.
What do you want again? That's what I don't want. Because people are going home, bringing the kids which is not belongs to them, and you cannot force them to breastfeed. I said let them mark their position and they go to the shade. Because this is now a passport to go through. They are using the kids which are not belonging to them. Because if you said breastfeed that child, says, no, I'm not breastfeeding. What will you say? We are saying let them keep their position. Go to stand there when their time comes. It is your position. You are in the group which is going. Otherwise, these people are going to complain. Because some of the kids are not for these people over here. These are not for them. Yes. We said there's a shade there. Mark your position. That meme will see sitting there. She was here. They said go and mark your position.
We are being like this.
But others don't want to go.
Some people like corruption.
So that's it. There's no harm for those. We are going to mundane it. Yes, amicably we will mind it. Yes, madam, are you Nadia?
All right, so that was Elani Smith bringing us that very important update from Omaheke region. We certainly hope that folks are, it's not just about free and fair from the ECN side. We've got to be free and fair to each other as we stand in those lines, making this very, very important decision. Now we're going to cross over just before I talk to Toyvon Jebela to the Kunene regions. Octavia Tsives talking to the mayor of Ocho.
Good morning, dear residents of Ocho. As you might know already, I'm Her Worship Sekhlinde Kananim. I'm the mayor of Ocho. I wake up today at 6 so that I can get to the polling station. It's very important that each and everyone that registered must come and cast their votes for their preferable candidate. So, dear residents of Ocho, your vote is your voice. So make your way to the polling station in order for you to have a voice. Thank you.
You're still with Election Watchers. We are keeping you informed throughout the voting process as hashtag Namibia decides 2024. You cannot watch an election without analysis, which is precisely why Mr. Rui Chitende has joined Toyvon Jebela in studio to dissect the happenings around hashtag Namibia decides 2024.
Goeiedag, my naam is Arie Hougaard en ek is die aanbieder van Kaap Vol Hoop en dit is die Kaap wat ons gesels en die Kaap is vol hoop, maar ons vertel die stories van die Kaap en omgewing en daar's lekker stories, lekker interessante stories van wat gebeur en ons praat met die mense, ons hoor hulle ervarings, ons luister ook na die musiek en ons drink die wyn, ons proe die wyne van die wynkelders en ons eet die kos en ons hoor wat sê die chefs van waar kom die beste resepte vandaan. Dit is 'n mooi wêreld die Kaap, daar's baie wat die Kaap bied. Daar's baie wat in die Kaap gebeur en by Kaap Vol Hoop vertel ons die stories. So skakel in elke week op Kaap Vol Hoop.
It's Election Watch here on NTV as we bring you the latest developments in and around the country. As far as today's voting process is concerned, we know that it's the 2024 Presidential and National Assembly election where Namibians are going to decide who's going to lead the country from a presidential point of view and of course who is going to lead them or represent them rather in the National Assembly. I'm now joined by Rui Chitende. He's a local academic and a political analyst who is here to give us a bit of his observations of the day. Thank you, Rui, for making time.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure talking to you. Crazy day because I drove out briefly to vote and I couldn't do it because the queues are unbelievable. The heat, the timing of these elections, one of the things also that concerns me a lot. I've seen people at Metro, the polling station at Metro, people having torn boxes to cover themselves. That's just so crazy. Your observation of the day so far?
Well, look, I woke up 2 a.m. this morning to go and assess as to whether people are already in the queues. I stay in Windhoek, East Kleine Cooper to be specific. So I went at that very polling station that you just made reference to. There was nobody. I drove to Olympia, same story. Then I was like, okay, when I wake up 5 o'clock, I should expect more or less the same. So I did that. 5:30 roundabout, I took my wife, we left, and at the one at Metro, there was a queue, and I was like, no, this queue looks too long. Let's go to the next one. MTC, it's a long queue also. So like, we're not going to stand in this queue. We drove to Trasco United Club or Stadium, whatever it is called, and we're like, okay, this one is a bit reasonable. So when we joined the queue, I think I was number 39 and she was number 40. So it's like, okay, we had our camping chairs and we sat. And my experience is that it went quite smoothly. We were done when the polling station opened at 7. They started immediately. And we were done round about 20 past 9 with the entire process. So at least our experience, it went smoothly. I also went to Eros Primary School. There was a long queue. People sitting on chairs, others sitting on camping chairs in the sun, and it's extremely hot. Other people drove to Debra, others drove to Tordabas because I understand Tordabas had an empty polling station, but of course that would come at a significant cost. But overall, you can see there's this appetite to really participate in our democratic process, and I hope people, especially the young people, will be able to stand out this heat and eventually stand there in the queue even when the polls close at 9 p.m. because the ECN is not allowed to chase you away. As long as you're in the queue before 9 o'clock, you'll be allowed to vote.
Absolutely. I mean, what do you make, Rui, of this appetite? I'm saying that this is the highest voter registration we've had since 1989. This sudden interest in this election, is it telling us something?
Yeah, it does. I think the writing is on the wall. First of all, it is the massive unemployment amongst the youth, especially graduates, those that have been told that if you study, you obtain your degree, chances are you live a good life. They have actually now been condemned to a whole life of hopelessness and nihilism. They do not see any future for themselves and they have someone to blame. And that institution that they are blaming is the governing party. And this discontent tends to permeate throughout society, not only the unemployed graduates. We are also speaking about people that are middle age, from 45 to 60. Their fortunes are not improving. Farmers, for example, they constantly need to deal with a drought that ravages their livestock and their livelihood. And they're asking themselves, you know what, we are really trying to eke out an honest living, but the socio-economic structures are actually there to dismantle us, to ravage our lifestyles. And again, there's someone to blame. And one of the reasons when it comes to food insecurity, to poverty, is also the policies that government has pursued. I'll give you one practical example, Toivo. Before independence, there were 7 green schemes, because Namibia is very strong in terms of the rhetoric when it comes to food security. Before independence, there were 7 green schemes. We are now talking about 11. And most of those green schemes are not functional. We should actually call them dry schemes, because there's nothing that is happening there. And this is what partially contributes to the food insecurity and the poverty that we have in the country. And then, of course, there's the issue of corruption and the politics of ethnicity. And I keep on making this argument that Namibia remains a vibrant laboratory of identity politics. If you look at political parties like NUDO, SWANU, and others, they are not there to compete in these elections. They are there to participate. As long as they get 2 seats, they are happy, so they can advocate for issues that speaks to their constituency, to their base. And that's what we should also expect in this election. But again, I'm not a political witch doctor. We do not really know what's in the minds of the electorate. We cannot decide or think beforehand who they will vote for. But my analysis is that this election, especially the presidential election, is between 2 contenders only, that of the governing party and that of IPC.
Absolutely. I mean, do you anticipate competition though, because historically SWAPO has never really had competition. Even in 2019, when the party lost its 2/3 majority, you could say by and large it was still comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
The party got, I think, 67% of the vote. President Geingob got, I think, 56 or so. Still quite comfortable. But do you anticipate the same, or do you think that the contest is much more intense this time?
I think the youth have shown a keen interest in this election. They constitute 71% of the population out of 3.1 million, according to the NSA. The ECN has also told us that close to 900,000 of them have registered in this election. My hunch is that if 80% of them show up in this election, there could be a potential runoff. If they do not, SWAPO will say smoothly, because they are relying on their voting blocks, being the 4 northern regions, the 2 Kavango regions, and the elderly in general, because the elderly have a stake in this election. They benefit from veterans of the grants given to veterans of the liberation struggle, grants given to pensioners. They have something to lose, because they do not want the fear of the unknown. They do not want that kind of comfort that they've been enjoying for the past 20, 34 years to be disturbed. So if young people do not vote, especially 80% of them at least, then SWAPO will sail through.
Is there anything to read from the results of the special vote, or is it too small a sample to deduce anything from it?
The special vote constitutes 1.1% of the total vote, and they will be tallied together with the rest of the votes. Even though it's minor, one can make certain inferences that 1, SWAPO remains popular, 2, in the name of affirmative repositioning, despite the fact that they've not been really going on campaign trails, maybe the argument could be made is because it was special voting, it was people voting in foreign missions, maybe students that voted for them, that maybe Professor Mupanda and the AR ideology resonate with them. But whether that will translate or manifest itself here locally, only time will tell.
Only time will tell. There's also this wave across the region, people talking about liberation movements being under pressure. We've seen what happened in Botswana, South Africa, Zambia the other year. And SWAPO has been unsettled to the extent that they have even once tweeted that, the dynamics here are different, without anybody asking them questions. They, out of their own volition, they actually reacted to that.
Paranoia.
Yeah, paranoia, absolutely. Do they have anything to fear in terms of that wave that is sweeping across Southern Africa?
I think SWAPO is right when they say that the dynamics are different, but the problems are similar. Unemployment, disillusionment amongst a huge segment of the population. However, one can never ignore when you have socio-economic challenges in the country. You need to address them. And all of these former liberation movements that you've just alluded to earlier, they are all, if not most of them, are in the political intensive care unit. In other words, they are knocking on death's door, and some of them, they know it. MPLA is a classical example. They've lost support to their former strongholds. UNITA is making serious inroads into areas previously controlled by the MPLA. Frelimo now, with the post-election violence, it has been marred by serious irregularities. Zimbabwe, ZANU-PF, there's no election result post-2008 that has not been challenged, marred by violence, serious allegations of irregularities. Botswana with the BDP, I mean, even analysts were wrong on that one. They expected at least a close contestation. That was a political massacre. That was not even a competition. The BDP is now the smallest opposition party in Botswana. So, Toivo, in short, we have entered a period of unpredictable politics. It's very difficult to speculate what would happen. But again, the answer is only in the minds of the electorate. We will see what will happen after today as the results are coming in. And I hope those people that are still standing in the queues will be able to endure the scorching heat of the sun.
Speaking of the scorching heat of the sun, having gone around town myself looking for a polling station earlier in the day, in fact, I intend to go back this evening, hoping that I'll be locked into the queue that will be found there by 9 o'clock, because I still have work to do here at the office. You know, what I've seen people going through today amazed me. It blew me away that people have so much appetite to say, look, yes, there's a sun, yes, there's this heat, yes, there's these long queues, and there are people at the polling station where I was, there are people who came with, what are these boots that you wear when you are injured? And they were
pretending to be disabled.
Yes, they were limping, and then once they go and hand it over to another guy, so that he comes under the same pretense again. The extent to which these people are going to make sure that they cast that vote, even unethically, in the sense of cheating queues and whatnot. And I tweeted just a while ago to say that do politicians understand? Do they have a slightest clue the extent to which people endure difficulties for them? And I said that, you know, if politicians understood just how much trouble we go to in order to vote for them, they will be doing much better than they do today. Because you can't have people do all that, go through all that, and then you get elected in the office, and then you relax. Your thoughts on that?
Well, look, in political science, the conceptualization of politics has undergone a long period of what we call intellectual promiscuity. In other words, we do not really know how to define politics. Sometimes it's defined as the art of the possible. It's defined as the art of compromise and consensus. It's the art of rising at the top through all means possible. Sometimes people even say, people in politics are dirty, or politics is a dirty game. But I think to a large extent, politicians, most of the time, their ideology in terms of how they want to transform society, even though they say the right things, the rhetoric that comes out is usually divorced from the reality that is experienced by the people that they purport to represent. Now, it's unfortunate that we have to wait for 5 years to vote the rascals out, whether they are performing or not. And maybe it's high time that we look at electoral reform. Is 5 years perhaps not long enough to hold our political leaders accountable? And our system, especially when it comes to representatives of the National Assembly, the proportional representation list, for example, you don't vote for those MPs directly. The party decides actually who becomes a member of parliament.
And they just present it to you.
They just present it to you, whether you like it or not. So they can even bring you a donkey or a rhino. You have to vote for that donkey or rhino as long as that rhino or donkey represents a particular political party. It does not take into account the competencies, the knowledge and the qualifications of this individual. And that's one other problem, Toivo. We do not have standards in our country when it comes to electing our politician. Any person can come from the street, from nowhere, from Onanjaba, from Keetmanshoop, from wherever, and wakes up, sing a song of a certain political party, wear his scarves to a point of almost strangling themselves to death. As long as that person's voice resonates with the public, they'll be voted into office. But we have standards for cleaners. We say grade 10, you say grade 12, you should have worked where. But why don't we have standards for people that ultimately decide whether you get to live or die? And sometimes literally, because they get to decide where a clinic will be constructed, where schools will be built, who will have access to proper roads, green schemes that we just spoke about earlier. So politics is a serious business, and it's high time that we put up standards there.
Yeah, absolutely. In closing, Rui, what happens if results are not decided in absolute terms? If, for example, the ruling party, because Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has done well in this special voting, outweighing the party by far, leading to arguments that the party might end up having lesser votes than the majority. So if, for argument's sake, SWAPO has 47% of the vote, do you see a situation where they snap up one of the smaller parties to make up for that gap and cross over to more than 51%, or do you see the opposition saying this is our opportunity now to work together and let SWAPO sit on the other side of the bench in Parliament?
Well, like I said earlier, politics is the art of compromise and consensus. It would make sense for SWAPO to co-opt smaller parties compared to the bigger ones, for example, like IPC, BDM or ELPM. Parties that would be interested, for example, to be given positions like a Deputy Minister of Gender, Deputy Minister of Health, without really strategic portfolios being given to them. As long as the governing party will be able to have sufficient numbers to make laws and to amend laws. That's all really that they require. Because remember, if their candidate has 50+1, Nandi-Ndaitwah will be able to form cabinet, appoint all the ministers, appoint all the governors, appoint all of the deputy ministers. So she has a lot of leeway to deal with this beast called SWAPO. Whatever tyranny of the numbers that they had in the past, we have an opportunity to actually demonstrate to the electorate to see, look, these are the kind of motions that we are discussing or debating in Parliament. These are the ones that speaks to your needs and aspirations, but there's someone else that is blocking it there. So this is a long game. They need to look forward to 2029. This election actually is about 2029. And I think if the opposition was smart enough, they would have rallied behind a single presidential candidate so that they stand a better chance of winning this election. Because if you look at 2019, Toivo, like you rightly pointed out, Geingob then got 56% of the vote. Itula got 29%. Again, Rivenani got 5.7%. Swarboy, 2.7%. Collectively, the vote of the opposition was not even sufficient to come even close to topple SWAPO. So what does that tell you? So they are now going to split the vote, and my argument is that all the other smaller parties that do not stand a chance of their presidential candidate winning, it is the equivalent of a spoiled ballot by voting for those parties in the presidential election.
Absolutely. Rui, thank you for coming through.
You're so welcome.
Rui, I appreciate it. That is Rui Shitende. He's a political scientist, also an academic, just sharing with us his perspectives on the ongoing voting process that is going on today. We'll be back shortly after this break.
Good day, viewers, and welcome to this week's edition of Erongo Talk.
My name is Leandria Mauer.
I am your host, Frida Moloto.
I am Emerita Shikesho.
I am Patricia Tanapo.
Now, as usual, we bring you the latest news, some sports news, as well as the weather and tides.
Om die eerste wen te kry, is 'n goeie gevoel, man.
Is that the goal, Joy?
Yes, that is currently the goal.
Phenomenal. I feel nice creative team.
To catch up for more news stories, visit our online channel, oneupto.com, or you can visit our website at www.erongo.com.na. Alternatively, you can check out our DSTV channel, channel 285, and GoTV, channel 25.
Election Watch is where you are at as hashtag Namibia decides 2024. Earlier on, you guys were speaking to Toivo Njabela with a political scientist, and I do have to say that was quite the insightful conversation you had.
Roy Shitende is a brilliant man.
He's with a brilliant mind.
I love his analysis, his
inputs,
his outlook is always good.
All right, so now you are in the hot seat. Now I do have to interview you.
Yeah.
We all know you as the editor of the Namibian Sun. So of course some of my questions are also going to be based off of that. But before we do that, let's just get a historical overview of presidential and National Assembly elections conducted between 1989 and 2019. In the first category, there's the presidential elections. The registered voters in 1989 was 701,483, with 97.3% of the voter turnout, and the total number of votes cast was 682,787. Then moving over to 1994, the number dropped of the registered voters. It was 654,189. The total number of votes cast was 497,508, and the voter turnout was 76.1%. Moving over to 1999, the number went back up again. 878,869 was the total number of registered voters. Number of votes cast 545,465, and the voter turnout dropped significantly to 62.1%. Then moving over to 2004, 977,742 was the total number of registered voters. 833,165 was the number of votes cast, and the voter turnout was at 85.2%. Moving over to 2009, 1,181,802 registered voters, 812,233 number of votes cast, and voter turnout was at 68.7%. And then now, to what most of us can actually remember back in 2014, the total number of registered voters was 1,241,194. The number of votes cast, 875,232, and voter turnout was at 70.5%. Then in 2019, the total number of registered voters was 1,358,468, 826,181 number of votes cast, and voter turnout was 60.8%. Again, that was for the presidential elections. Now, Namibia registered voters, the total is a whopping 1,451,444. That is the total number of registered voters.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you look at that analysis, and thank you to Network Data Hub for providing us with that information, you could clearly see that whenever there's a new presidential candidate, there's this excitement.
Yes.
That's why, for example, in 2004, President Sam Nujoma was leaving office, and for SWAPO, because SWAPO, of course, was already a clear winner even before the election, they knew that Hifikepunye Pohamba was coming in as a new president, and people are always excited about new things. They went all out and produced Hifikepunye Pohamba. And then you look there in 2019, it was still Pohamba standing. And therefore the excitement was not as much.
It was dwindling.
Yes. Yeah. But again in 2014, when Hage Geingob was again a new candidate, then the numbers went up slightly. And you could see, for example, that he won by 87% of the vote. Unbelievable numbers that he got in 2014. And then in 2019, because he didn't do too well, government didn't really perform very well under his first tenure, then the numbers dropped again. That's why perhaps in 2024, the reason why we have a 91% voter registration rate might be again is because we are assured to have a new president again coming from this today's election. Whether it's Netumana Ndaitwa of SWAPO, Dr. Itula of IPC, or anyone else, again you could see that it's people excited about that sense of newness.
Yes, I think that's always, like you're saying, I couldn't have said it better myself, that the prospect of somebody new, people want to see what they are going to do, right? So speaking of significance of today, it's a crucial moment for Namibia. We've been waiting for this day. What are your reflections on how the campaign period has led us up to this point?
Yeah, I thought the campaigns were very, very civilized. There were isolated incidents. For example, in Msati region, there's a member of the ruling party, SWAPO, who drove into a rally of IPC, and he was arrested and charged by the police there. He's still being investigated for attempted murder. That was quite serious. And then there was, in October, some confrontation between the convoys of SWAPO and LPM in Mariental. But apart from that, really, we've only seen robust debates, apart from, of course, the propaganda, the fake news that was being spread. I suppose you can never really remove that from a period like that.
Yes.
But in terms of really peace and security of people, I think it was really good.
Really good. And because we are talking voter turnout, let's actually cross on over to the Irongo region to speak to Precious Napo and see what's happening that side.
Okay, my name is Sebastian Moretti. I'm the presiding officer at F02000902 Conservancy Office in Uwis. The whole procedure started very well in the morning, though we had some difficulty there because you can see the space so limited, but we managed to set up the whole venue. And in the morning, it was a bit dark. The people were complaining that they couldn't see inside the voting booth. We had to provide the light for them. So far, approximately maybe we are having around maybe 100, almost 100 people that came out to vote. And as you can see, the queue is also still long, so it's a long day that we are going to have. I think that's all.
Precious Ngitwanapo in the Rongo and Kunene regions, just giving us information on the presiding officer of UIS, talking about, or rather complaining about, the lack of light. So back to what we were saying, voter turnout. Do you anticipate high voter turnout, and what factors do you think will influence participation today?
Yeah, I think that there are many social factors, socio-economic factors that have really pulled people out of their homes to vote today. But I'm just a bit worried about the efficiency of ECN because the queues are too long, the processes are very slow. I got a report earlier on about some device of ECN that just froze in Okahanja. And people are really frustrated, even when you look at the reports from our reporters. You know, it's voters complaining really that there ought to be faster ways to do this. Let's see, some people are even calling for the extension of the voting days to be at least to tomorrow again, but I think these things are usually gazetted, and you cannot
just change it
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, with the ECN challenges, this is not the first time that people have been complaining. Even leading up to the election, there was a lot of concern regarding the efficiency. All right, now let's move over to the manifestos and the election issues. With voters heading to the polls, which manifesto promises or issues do you think are weighing most heavily on their decisions?
Yeah, I think yesterday I did a thread on X, just detailing what each political party is talking about in their manifestos as far as job creation is concerned. Because I think, for me personally, and I even say that if there was a single item upon which we must vote, for me to be unemployment, job creation. So many different political parties have proposed different interventions. I will not go into each one of those due to time constraints, but I think, for example, SWAPO talks about investing in infrastructure, sport infrastructure, and in the process create jobs. IPC talks about reducing taxes, corporate taxes, so that companies can reinvest into their growth and expand their operations and thereby creating new jobs. AR talks about giving tax breaks to any company that employs more than 100 people at a time. So everybody has a thing or two to say about that.
And some voters have expressed confusion over the feasibility of certain promises, because people are concerned that that's all they are, just promises. Do you think the manifestos provided enough clarity to help voters make informed choices?
I think the manifestos are largely realistic. If they put their minds to those promises, they can achieve them. I mean, I've seen some things that I thought were a bit outrageous. For example, PDM saying that they will establish factories in each region. I don't think, first and foremost, that is actually necessary, because each region has its own economic strengths and weaknesses. There are regions that you simply cannot create factories. There are other ways that you can uplift them. 14 factories, I mean, producing what in each region? If you go to Umsat region, where I come from, I mean, a factory there will be for what? I don't know. Maybe they have better ideas than I do. But for me, the question is, when you have these ideas, they need to be funded.
Yes.
And political parties ought to have come out more strongly on how they are going to raise funds for the revenue.
For these promises.
Yes. So that you fund these things. Are going to borrow money from and increase the national debt that we already have? Are you going to make your own generation of revenues through NAMRA and other institutions? Or what are you going to do, you know, those kind of things.
So then that brings me to my next question. Voters often worry about these promises, these manifesto promises being forgotten. What do you think needs to happen to ensure parties are held accountable for their pledges?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, and that is exactly what my problem is with the way our entire system is set up. Because once people have been elected to Parliament and State House, there are very few ways in which you can really, in a true sense of the word, hold them accountable.
Yes.
Because they start ignoring us, even us in the media, when you ask and say, look, Minister, you have promised people, or your manifesto your party manifesto talks about these things that your ministry ought to have delivered. What is the progress? Where do we stand? And often they will tell you, some of them will even be as rude as saying to you that they do not account to the media, when in fact, by speaking to the media, you're speaking to the nation. You're accountable to the people, and we are only a conveyor belt for your message. So they become a bit cocky and arrogant once they are elected in office. Our state institutions are very, very weak to hold people accountable. Unlike in South Africa, for example, people can be dragged to the Constitutional Court by opposition parties to really squeeze things out of them. But here, it's a bit different and difficult to actually achieve that.
I understand. So let's move over to the role of media. What has been the role of media, including Namibian Sun, in ensuring voters are informed and engaged leading up to today?
Yeah, I think every media has had its own plan. I do not know the internal plans of each one of them, but at Namibian Sun, at Namibia Media Holdings in particular, Network Media Holdings, that is the new name of our company, we had dedicated platforms. In newspapers, for example, every Tuesday in Namibian Sun, Republican and Algemene Zeitung, we had a page dedicated specifically to elections, and it even had a vox pop thing where you interview members of the public to say what do you expect from your leaders, what are your, all these kind of things. So we've been very clear, and I mean, really, and platforms like this that we've created specifically just for this period. And tomorrow, maybe people haven't seen anything yet. Tomorrow, when results start coming out, this company of ours is going to blow people away, because we have prepared so much for this thing. We have amazing systems that are going to be really just, information at your fingertips.
All right, sorry, Tova, I'll have to pick your brain a little later. For now, let's take a look at Hone Tlage, who is in the Commerce region. Let's see what's happening right here at home.
Thank you very much, members of the Fourth Estate international media that might be present here. The first question is that the process, to me, went very slowly because of a privilege of standing before other people, something I don't appreciate very much. But be that as it may, I see a number of voters that are standing for a very long time in the queues. The question that you want to ask is, Tatevenani, why are you here at Kilimanjaro? It has been my political culture to look at those that are downtrodden. This is one of the worst stations in terms of infrastructure. There is no electricity here. At night, I will also come here to come and look whether the electricity is working. So I chose the least privileged voting station to come and see how people are being accommodated at this station. That's the very reason. On the question of, I'm pressuring for change. I'm pushing Namibia to change. This country can bring about a change. Botswana has done it, South Africa has done it, Mauritius has done it. Namibia can also bring about change, to bring about socio-economic conditions that improve. So if you go around these places, people have no water, people have no houses, people have no electricity for 34 years, and the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That is my message to the people of Namibia, that you must pressure for change. Happy voting day. Let's keep one Namibia, one nation. Let's keep unity. Let's keep harmony amongst ourselves. But this country must improve for the citizen. The country does not belong to the leaders. It belongs to the people. And the sovereigns must decide their future. And I'm asking them to pressure for change.
That was Mike Henry Vanani of Popular Democratic Movement. He was actually saying that he chose the less privileged areas to go cast his vote, but then he did say that he will return a little later on because there's currently no power at that polling station.
Yeah, I mean, it has been happening. There's so many logistical challenges today. I think ECN is a bit overwhelmed, and I hope they find strength and ways to really make sure that they emerge out of this process with their reputation intact, because I think there are just too many loose ends that need to be tidied up.
Too many glitches.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then how would you assess Namibia's preparedness to conduct free, fair and transparent elections today? We've already seen the glitches.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about free and fair elections, I think we often only look at these terms in their literal sense, but there are many things. It's like saying peace and stability. and we have peace and stability. But you don't consider that if a person goes to bed without eating, there's no peace there. There's actually no stability. So the same as for fair and free elections, because how fair is it that I mean, Frank Stefan earlier on, he gave us an analysis of what it looks like. That if you look at the pace at which things are going, and the population that has been registered to vote, and the number of polling stations that are available, it looks like so many. I think only around under 30% will actually be able to make it, unless provisional arrangements are made. That is not fair, because as a citizen, I have gone out, I've registered, and I'm eager to vote. And if the systems of the ECN themselves are not functional enough to allow me to vote, there's no fairness in that process.
Yes, I think it's definitely frustrating. We did speak about this earlier, to say that, you know, with this heat, there haven't been many provisions made for that. And to be honest, I think that will frustrate a lot of voters. And then people will probably think, you know what, let me just go back, I'll come back later. And then maybe they do come back later. Most of the time they don't. Maybe when they do, they see still a long queue. And then I feel like that heavily plays on voter turnout.
Absolutely.
Yes, so now let's look at the smaller parties. What role do you think smaller or newer parties are playing in today's election? For example, IPC. IPC wasn't a registered party at the last election.
Yeah, IPC is not a smaller party, just a newer.
Just a newer party, yes.
Yeah, same as affirmative repositioning. Those two for me are the new entrants into this race, and I suspect that, judging at the outcome of the special voting, AR seems to have really put their mark down. They look like they're the surprise package of this election. IPC are very strong by their standards. They are already considered to be SWAPO's main challenger, and if that is true, it means that the least position that they can take is official opposition, toppling PDM if it goes as per the predictions. And for PDM, it will be unfortunate, because they have been the official opposition for long. Of course, they had lost it before, and then they reclaimed it again in 2019. But if they lose it, we ought to start asking questions. What is it that they are not doing right? That they keep becoming this seasonal official opposition.
I see. Yeah. And then after today, what do you think the elected leaders should focus on, regardless of which party wins?
I think there's actually, people are absorbed in this election, in the hype and whatever, and the songs and sloganeering, but there's actually a very, very serious responsibilities lying ahead after today, because we can sloganeer, we can shout, we can dance at rallies, but the music has gone silent.
Yes.
The people that were brought in the country
to
from
perform,
they are gone back to their countries.
Yes.
We still have unemployment. We still have poverty levels just surging. Our education is a mess. Hospitals do not have adequate medical stocks. We cannot afford to, and this is what I'm saying, that if you look at what people are going through today, to make sure that they put that cross on that ballot paper, it is to say, really, please address our problems. People are not just voting out of excitement.
Yes.
Nobody leaves their home just to be in the sun the entire day for the fun of it. It's because they are really saying, we need your assistance, please heed our call, and whoever emerges out of this process ought to really listen and do what is being asked of them.
Yeah, and I think really and truly now, particularly the youth, we're seeing them taking their role a bit more seriously, because I think now they're starting to realize that the future is in their hands. Yeah. We cannot just sit back and allow other people to make decisions for us. We need to be able to make the decision for ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, the young people have impressed me. They are the one demographic that has really, really impressed me. Their appetite to participate, their endurance to stay put in under those circumstances. I think they really want to send a clear and strong message.
Yes, I definitely agree. Do you have any other thoughts that you may want to add?
Oh, the thoughts are many on a day like this.
Very true.
Yeah, but no, the ball now is in the hands of ECN. They have to do everything in their power. within the latitude that they have to make sure that they produce a credible, transparent, and efficient electoral outcome, and that if there are any challenges, maybe somebody feel they were unjustly disadvantaged by the outcome, they think that they were cheated or whatever, we also hope that our judicial system, when these things are brought to them, that they are going to be objective and professional in their conduct, in their presiding over of these matters. Because in 2019, for example, briefly, in 2019, Dr. Itola stood as an independent. We used electronic voting machines at the time, which did not have a paper trail. So if you wanted to verify how many votes Diana got from Kadutura East constituency, the machines couldn't produce that. And he dragged the matter to court. The court ruled in Itola's favor, basically saying yes, the Electoral Act dictates that there ought to have been a paper trail.
Yes.
But the courts just ended there. They upheld the outcome of an election that cannot be verified, and I thought that was wrong. If it cannot be verified, they ought to have said you have to start over.
Agreed, yes.
And do things properly.
Because one thing, though, that we've seen with this election is that parties have been extremely vocal.
Yeah.
They have expressed their unhappiness. Yeah. They have expressed very much, especially towards the ECN, about how they've been handling everything, and we'll get into that a little later. But for now, let's cross on over to the Omaheke region as Ilani Smith takes us through.
So I'm Mr. Osiana Ruteo, presiding officer of the Hobabis. I'm in Epako Secondary School polling station. We are here to conduct the election casting of votes for the election that is held the 27th of November 2024.
So how has the process been so far? Have you experienced any delays or problems during the day?
So the process is running smoothly only at first when we have agents that are coming in with informations that are not really compatible, and so we have to send them back, some of them, and some are in for the sake of having the good and the eligible documents.
I say it's very busy outside. How many voters have you had so far?
So far, we have registered 89 voters, and the queue is very long, and we expect a lot of people to come.
To come during the day?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was the presiding officer at Epako Secondary School in the Omaheke region, just explaining to us why they had to turn some voters away. Do you think this is going to be a trend that we're going to be seeing throughout today?
I hope not, and that speaks exactly to my last point earlier, to say that ECN has a duty to make sure that they provide a conducive environment for us under all circumstances to cast our vote. I mean, if you already have incidents of people being turned away for this or that, especially, so we just do not want to hear those kind of stories today. We must protect the votes of the people, we must protect the willingness of people to participate, and we must make it as easier as possible for them to participate.
And do you think this will then be a learning curve, for lack of a better term, because again, it's not like this is the very first time Namibia is having elections. There are definitely some lessons to be learned from this election based off of or regarding the ECN.
Yeah, but you see, that is also, we can't just be learning. We ought to be, as a baby, you are crawling first, then start working on one feet, tumbling and whatnot, and then they ought to be steady now on their feet. I mean, 2009, the Rally for Democracy and Progress challenged the outcome of that election. I was a court reporter at the time, attended all the proceedings, and the court berated ECN for their conduct. They did not overturn the outcome, but there were a lot of pointers that they said ECN must go back and rectify this, and this. 2009 was long ago. We ought now to be really doing things more properly, and so that you have that confidence of the populace
Yes.
in your processes.
I think this is why then now a lot of the voters and even some of the party leaders are expressing dissatisfaction, because like you're saying, I think a lot of them share that same sentiment with you, that by now surely we should have a more efficient way of doing things, because earlier on in the month we read that ECN still didn't have enough cars.
Yeah.
That was a concerning issue.
I mean, there was the advert to procure cars for members of the public to deliver their cars to ECN for whatever. That advert was running until the 20th of November, which was last week, Thursday. With 7 days to go only, you are still busy procuring cars. You had 5 years. I'm saying that you have 5 years, and some of these processes ought to have been resolved months ago, not a week before the voting process.
Yes, so I'm pretty sure a lot of Namibians are sharing that sentiment with you and that frustration with you. But then again, this is election watch, so we are going to be watching the election very closely, still bringing you in-depth analysis and interviews, and of course we do have our correspondents all over Namibia to bring us live feed and coverage as it happens. Toivo, thank you so very much for joining me and for bringing me this insightful information.
No, thank you for hosting me. I'm excited still. I hope and pray that I will get a chance to vote later, because I have made a vow to myself that come what may, I must vote today.
Come rain, come thunder, come sunshine.
That's it.
We will be looking forward to that, and I'm sure you'll be giving us also live feed from your polling station.
I will show you proof of
proof of voting.
Yes,
I'll be looking forward to it. I'll be looking for it tomorrow.
Yeah, sure.
All right, stick around. More Election Watch coming right up.
Discover your dream home with My.NA Property, a show that focuses on real estate, property development, as well as lifestyle. So whether you are a first-time buyer, a seasoned investor, or simply just exploring, this is your ultimate guide to making informed decisions about property. My name is Aina Raiza-Koyo, and you can catch me every Thursday at 9 p.m. on DSTV 285 and GoTV 25 to discover more beautiful properties around Namibia. Don't miss out, your dream property awaits.
Joining us now is Jareen Hoff to shed light on the current situation, or rather critical situation, of healthcare in Namibia, and she's also going to help us highlight if the current promises in the current manifestos actually align with the critical issues. Jareen, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks, Diana. So yes, of course, this is the whole medical field, health, social services are always contentious issues. And it's one of the biggest issues in our country, the lack of it.
Yes.
So I spoke to Henriette Lamprecht, who is NMH's in-house medical expert, and she had a lot to say about it. So we had to stop talking after a while. But anyway, yes, I think if we can switch to that, that'll be brilliant.
All right, while we're pulling up that interview, I'm pretty sure that discussion was very insightful, and I'm pretty sure you had a lot to say, and we're very, very curious to see what you're going to say, and here it is.
Welcome back, viewers. Thank you for tuning in. With me in studio is Henriette Lamprecht. She, of course, is our editorial medical expert. So, Henriette, I know the health sector has been seen major challenges, and you have experience in writing about it from beginning to end. Could you briefly give an overview of what you think are the biggest issues in the health sector at the moment?
Yes, Jareen, the past 3 years especially was the issue of medicine. just bear in mind that 85% of Namibians' population are, they need to go to public healthcare facilities. So that means almost 3/3 of Namibians need medicine, chronic medicine, contraceptives at clinics. And literally the past 3 years, since I would say it started before COVID, but it got more intense after COVID, is that basic, I would say necessities like gloves, like contraceptives, like
blood pressure pills.
Chronic medicine, especially. That's not in stock. Two reasons for that. The first one is tenders that it lands in court. So because of some...
I mean, that's going on now as we speak.
Forever. So, and the main thing is, one specific tender is for more than, I think, 1.3 billion. I'm not sure, but it's more than $1 billion.
It's a crazy amount of money.
Yes, and that includes basics, chronic medication, but of course basics like just normal gloves. So while this is continuing in court, the tender literally stops. So it was awarded, and then somebody else said, but I wanted it, and so it literally stops. So it means this tender of more than $1 billion, Namibian dollars, is not getting distributed. So that's the main thing.
So then what is the Ministry of Health doing in the meantime? Because this, or they sort of leaving people to their own devices?
Exactly. So what they do is they do buyouts, which means they need to pay so much more for, again, something basic like gloves. So that's one thing. The second thing that also hampers it, and that the ministry says that's the reason, is our Procurement Act. And the Ministry of Health also capped, so if it's more than a certain amount, I'm not sure, but I think it's 22 million. So the moment you have something you need to buy for more than 22 million, you first need to get
to the procurement
permission from the procurement board, because then it actually needs to go out and tender. So what they do now is buyouts, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And you only have, just also bear in mind, you've got a limited amount of money. So if you use now all your money to do buyouts, you don't have money to either pay a salary or work on your infrastructure
or do maintenance.
Yeah. What's very sad to me is people with chronic medication, and like your high blood pressure, people with epilepsy, and depression. So I will need a different, for instance, epilepsy medication than you have. So now they have got a standard one, but the standard one doesn't work for you.
Yes.
So in the end, people that's reliant on public medical care now need to go.
There.
Yeah. So what happens in a lot of cases with people with depression, with people with epilepsy, is that they just forgo their medication because they don't have the money to buy it. Because you and I both know, and we've got private medical care, how much it actually costs to buy those medicines.
It's interesting that you mention epilepsy. I mean, we've had lots of discussions about this before, but my daughter has epilepsy, and then 1 month we'll just hear this medication is not available in Namibia anymore, never mind anywhere else. And if you want it and you need it, you need to get special permission on compassionate grounds to get it into the country.
Because it needs to be registered. That's the other thing. Yeah.
And then a lot of these medications aren't registered in Namibia, and it seems the process to try and get medications registered here is very cumbersome, and it takes forever.
All this bureaucratic, I don't know, I can't mention the word that I want to say on camera, but yeah, it's all this bureaucratic stuff, and especially our journalists in the north. I mean, it's the same here at Katatura and Central Hospital, but doctors actually saying that they will treat Jareen with what they have, but they don't have what they need. So they literally are sending people home
with a panado.
With a panado, and you know this person is not coming back. It's very disheartening, Jareen. So that's the biggest thing. Another thing that's also, apart from the Procurement Act, and then of course now the tenders that's in court, is a lot of ingredients are not always
readily available.
available. And then another thing that's very important that we should know, Namibia is so small, and we've got actually a tiny population. So people or companies, pharmaceutical companies, would rather prefer sending what they have to bigger buyers. So, but now they're doing. We becoming part of a bigger pool. So Southern Africa. So you've got Zimbabwe, South Africa, and all of those people, countries coming together.
Okay.
So which makes us a bigger buyer. Which will hopefully help. Yeah.
Okay, and then of course the other contentious issue at the moment is the medical students.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a very stressful situation for everyone involved.
Exactly, yeah. So the medical interns, they now need, that's now your medical students. So the Health Professions Council says you need to have at least 2 to 3 years internship at a hospital. The one thing also that we lack, apart from medicine, is doctors, which now we have all these doctors, but you don't have mentors and you don't have the right hospitals to be taught and to accommodate these interns. And now we have the case of medical interns. They're actually in their 3rd year, and they're supposed to get paid if they work after hours from 5 until I think it's at 7 in the morning, and they're not getting paid. So, and some of these interns, I have done stories where I spoke to interns that work for 48, 49, some of them 57 hours continuously non-stop. And this specific group, they are about 70, but I think they're more. The 70 that actually took part in wrote a petition and handed over a petition. And they said, no, but if you don't give us money, we're not going to work after 5.
So what impact will that have on the health system?
That's, personally, our reporter Rita Kaleku spoke to the Minister of Health, Dr. Kalumbi Shangula, and he said there will be no effect, but that's not true. So you can imagine that your interns are the ones doing the injections, the bed pans, all of that. So it will definitely have an impact. And also remember, according to WHO standards, you're supposed to have a ratio of at most 100 patients per doctor.
That's already high.
That's already high, and I think ours are at 350 for one. So you can imagine. It doesn't. The picture isn't very
encouraging. Is there any encouraging news?
The encouraging news is that Windhoek finally is getting a district hospital, so thank goodness for that. So just to remember, Katatura and Windhoek Central is our referral hospitals.
Yes.
Basically, Windhoek Central. So all the people from the north, everybody comes to, which also happens that you don't have enough beds and all of that. So hopefully the district hospital, which is, they already started building, that will take that pressure at least off from Katatura Hospital and Central as well. So that's a good thing. And we're getting ICUs. I think, I want to give compliments to the ministry for what they actually did during COVID. So they built a lot of ICUs. They brought in ventilators, oxygen banks and machines and whatever. So that's a good thing. So clinics and health facilities are getting more equipped to do what we want to do. But let's talk after the election and see what changes with the new regime.
Thank you, Henriette, for making time for us. Viewers, there you have it.
Quite the discussion you had there, Jareen.
True.
Yeah, it was lengthy. But anyway, I mean, you were talking all valid points, and like I said earlier when I was introducing you, that is about the critical state of the healthcare system in Namibia.
And as Henriette also said, at this stage it's really critical because medicines that are essential are just not available.
That is, yeah, that is a lot to unpack and to also discuss. But before we do that, let's actually take a look at how hot it is as the voters are standing in the queues. It is currently 31 degrees Celsius, and it actually feels as though it is 35 degrees Celsius. And keep in mind, this is after the temperatures have dropped. This is right here in Windhoek. The temperatures actually dropped a bit because at lunchtime it was scorching hot. Let's take a look at Oshakati. It's 36 degrees, but it feels like it is 39 degrees, Jareen.
Oh my goodness. I feel sorry for our correspondents up there.
Yeah, I definitely feel, I feel for them. Back in now, moving over to Keetmans, it is 26 degrees Celsius, but it feels like it is 30 degrees Celsius.
Oh, for Keetmans, that's not so bad.
Mm-hmm. I actually thought it would be worse. Now let's take a look at Swakopmund. 17 degrees Celsius. It is bright and sunny, and it also feels like it is 20 degrees.
So that's actually perfect weather for voting. Hey?
It is, because you know what, earlier on, that's what we were talking about, that the heat is actually going to discourage people to vote. Because again, if you're standing in a queue for 5 hours and you're in the heat.
You've got serious dehydration issues.
Serious dehydration issues, and I feel like they should have made provision for that. Because not just for the sun. If it rains now, what's going to happen? Hopefully
you know
it doesn't rain.
I think Namibians will dance in the rain because we are just that desperate for
rain. And I think also with this heat, just to cool us down a little bit. But let's cross on over to Otis Daniels, who is in the Karas region. Otis, how are you doing? Otis, can you hear me? Well, Otis is giving us some live visuals there, but it seems he's having a bit of trouble hearing me. Let me try one more time. They say third time's a charm. Otis, how are you? All right, Otis is just walking around showing us the state of affairs there, what's happening with the voters. It seems that it's quite peaceful, not much happening, not much commotion, but let's just look at those queues. Jeez. One thing is good though, they're in the shade. At least they're not out in the sun, but as you can see, it is quite packed. Voters are waiting. I wonder if the lines are progressing as fast, because there were complaints earlier on that the lines weren't moving at all, or if they were moving at a really, really slow pace, snail pace, some would say. All right, that was Otis Daniels in the Karas region, giving us a live feed of the voters there. All right, Jareen.
I was just checking if I got any updates from Otis on our internal group.
Yes.
And he was also just mentioning how the rows are long and it is moving. Well, it's smooth, but it is taking time.
It is taking time.
And locally, we've heard a lot of reports that there are literally only one booth at each of the polling stations. Sometimes there are a few more, and that of course adds to the frustration and it makes the whole process longer. I said to you earlier behind the scenes, this morning we were at Lady Puhamba.
Yes.
I gave up after 4 hours, and then I said, okay, now I leave my husband in the row. And by lunchtime, he said they counted, there were still 300 people ahead of them. So he's hoping that by 5, he would have been able to cast his vote.
But this goes back to what I was saying, that the election process should have been a lot smoother so as to not frustrate voters. Because yes, people are excited to vote, but it's things like this that discourage voters.
And I really want to vote.
You can just go back. You can just go back. I'm sure you can go back.
I'll be there at 9 o'clock tonight.
As long as you're in the queue by 9, then you can place your vote. But Jareen, this has been an absolute lovely, lovely chat. It's time for me to say my goodbyes. For now, I'll be back again at 7.
Okay, thanks, Diana.
Hi, welcome to We Talk, your weekly hub for inspiring stories and community highlights. In Talk of the Town, we bring you the latest news from Windhoek and the surrounding towns. Need weekend plans? The We Chill segment has the coolest and best events lined up for you. For all the foodies, We Dine explores the hottest dining spots, and for We Do Business, we celebrate the inspiring entrepreneurs. Finally, We Care celebrates the heroes making a difference in their communities. So don't forget to catch We Talk every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25. You can also stream it on oneup2.com. So don't miss We Talk.
You are still watching Election Watch. Now, we are saying to you that the future of this republic is in the hands of you because you have the opportunity to vote today. If you are still making up your mind, we do encourage you to check out our Synergy chatbot. Our number is 085-785-6231, and on there you have information about manifestos. Perhaps you're still thinking what party to choose. We have polling station, one that is close to you. We also have all sorts of information about election. Jareen.
Aina, thank you for joining me here quickly.
You're most welcome. Now, you and I are twinning.
Yes, we totally
So
are.
we're going to have a great conversation because
we're going to start our own
sync.
political party here.
I think we should do that. So let's talk about, the Kavango Transfrontier area, right? This has been something that a lot of media covered for so long. We've heard that, oil drilling can threaten, the Kavango River Basin, which then puts Namibian and Botswana water at risk. Talk to us about, just that oil exploration, gas drilling and everything. What is it about for those who might not know what that is about?
Okay, so first to start off with, I'm the regional coordinator, so the different regions fall under my portfolio, and along with that, it's very community based, and that's why my focus is mainly on the residents of areas that are impacted by all kinds of developments. And throughout the course of our little chat here, we'll be looking at the far north, at the south, at the coast, at all kinds of issues that really impact the people. So back to Kaza and your original question, the Kaza is a transfrontier park between the four countries in the Zambezi region, and tourism is massive there. It has grown exponentially in the last couple of years, and it is a vital area for thousands of residents. You'll see in the video there, there it's actually just displays exactly how beautiful it is. The thing is though, that there have been, well, it's not definitely defined yet, but they do say there's a lot of underground oil and gas, which is great, but it also comes at a cost, especially to the environment and to the people and the animals. So it's a very fragile ecosystem, and in the long run, I'm not really 100% convinced that the communities are going to benefit from any kinds of developments that there are. Of course, the biggest issue here is also Recon Africa. They're a very controversial Canadian gas and exploration company, and the work that they are doing is really going to put our water resources at risk. Also the wildlife, also the people. As it is, they are working in areas that they weren't originally allowed to do, and they are still drilling and drilling and drilling. As far as we understand, they haven't been anywhere near as successful as they thought they would be, which once again, I'm not sure is a good thing or a bad thing. In terms of the environment, it's definitely a good thing. In terms of the communities, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure how much communities will actually benefit from any kind of oil or gas exploration that is found there. And it leaves a big impact on, well, just about everything. And if you just look at this video, you can see it's absolutely pristine, and there are all kinds of wildlife that are endemic, especially the birds, to that area. And then any kind of exploration work definitely has an impact. So, and then besides that, the water that is in this basin flows right down into the Kalahari. So everything is very much interconnected in this area, and if there's damage to one thing, it will damage everything.
While we are talking about benefits, I just want to find, yes, you did mention that you're not sure whether the communities would benefit. Let's assume they would benefit. How can we ensure that these benefits go directly to these communities, not to third parties, not to middlemen, and so forth?
There's your magic question. How do we? And in my view, there is no way that we will know.
We hope and pray. We have faith. This is where we put our faith to test.
And the thing is also, I mean, NAMCOR only has a very small percentage in Recon's concessions there. So what's coming back to us is really minimal.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about the communities, Jereen. I'm not sure, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, where this oil exploration is happening. Do these communities need to be evacuated to some areas? Is there some sort of displacement that is going to happen?
At this stage, not so much, but like I said earlier, the exploration is already expanding into sections that weren't okayed. So Recon is really just going on as they please. And in the meantime, CASA is trying to promote and build our whole tourism brand in that area. If I look at NMH's stance, we are looking at everything south of the equator to promote the whole area as a whole, and CASA is a major part of that. And then I also have to add, that area, the Zambezi and the Kavango, is just absolutely stunning. It is my favorite part of the country.
I've been there. You know, I want to go and see Zambezi Mombala. It's on my bucket list.
Yes.
I absolutely have to go there. I don't know, I need to get money somewhere. Maybe with this new government, the tenders will be open, more opportunities. I don't know.
Or we'll just start the Purple Party.
We should. Okay, now that we spoke about the impact of these projects on the community, I want us to reflect on their mental health, you know, possibly being displaced, you know, losing your family, also just seeing a place where you've grown up transform around you overnight even sometimes. How do you think that, you know, can affect the communities?
I know, honestly, I think the impact is tremendous.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And as it is, we don't have a very good record of mental health in the country at all. I mean, our suicide rates are through the roof. So any kind of displacement would be very traumatic for anyone. And losing your ancestral land, where you've grown up, where you have eked out a living, where you have lived in harmony with nature, it really... it's going to have a massive effect.
And where your dreams, and this is land you hope that your children, you know,
will
can
sometimes
come someday rather inherit from you, and so forth. So it's concerning, it's alarming, but you know, people have, these companies, I feel, in my opinion, have great PR. So
for sure.
So people are convinced that the benefits are more than the damage.
And they think they're going to make a lot of money, and the reality is money literally flows like water. It's not going to keep you happy very long.
Definitely. Well, sometimes it can for very long, because they say money buys happiness. But Jereen, hold that thought. We are going to be crossing over to Swakopmund, and we will be having a chat with Irene. Hi, how are you? Irene, can you hear me?
Hi, Anna, I'm good. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. You look ready.
I am ready. I've been ready since about 6 a.m. this morning. We've been ready for a long time. I think our voters are also extremely ready to cast their votes in the region. So it's a very exciting day.
What's happening in Swakop?
Lots of voting, a lot of long lines. A lot of voters are quite upset at the long lines, but still the majority of them, no matter how upset and disgruntled they are at the long lines, they seem to be really dedicated to exercising their right to vote, which is very fantastic to see. A lot of chatter. I see a couple of new friends made in the voting lines, which is good to see. I think just a great attitude from the residents of the region at this point.
Oh, that's beautiful, Irene. And how is the process going? Is it fast? Is it slow? You did mention that voters are quite disgruntled. Is it because the queue is not moving fast? Irene, are you still with me? Well, we seems to have lost Irene there, maybe due to connection.
I think
Oh, she's
polling
back.
station in Arandis where I. Yeah, are you with?
Yes, I can hear you. You may continue.
So I think on the mission in Arandis, where I've just returned from a matter of minutes ago, there were some polling stations where they weren't entirely happy with the pace of it. Platamir this morning notoriously had an issue with their digital tablets, which is meant for scanning voter cards and scanning voters' fingerprints. But since that has been resolved, I think especially in Swakopmund, in the town, there's generally a satisfaction with how fast the line is moving. I've counted so far all the polling stations I've been at. I've counted about 10 minutes for a vote. I'm hoping that's a vote that's been casted right there. About 10 minutes from the moment you enter the polling station to the moment you leave. But it's not uncommon to see people waiting 2, 4, maybe 5, 6 hours at this point. But again, I think that dedication shows to cast your vote.
All right, Irene, you seem dressed for summer. How is the weather that side?
It's very sunny. I think it's Swakopmund December weather. It's quite insane to think that in about 2 weeks this is going to be the mecca of tourism in Namibia, or for the most part be the mecca of tourism in Namibia, because right now all I'm seeing is a bunch of locals sitting in lines eagerly waiting to cast their vote.
All right, Irene, thank you so much for bringing us this live feed all the way from Swakopmund.
Thank you, Aina.
You are most welcome. Now, Charina, let us continue with our conversation. Let's talk about the San people and them living amongst the Awambo people. Some are integrated in the communities of the Kavango people. How do you think that the fact that they are living outside of their own environments, because we know San people to be, hunters, they are nomadic people. Do you think them living in other communities makes them lose their, tradition and culture and heritage?
Okay, so to begin with, according to genealogy, the San were the first people to live here.
Yeah.
So we also do know they were hunter-gatherers and nomads, like you just said. And sad but true, yes, they are losing their property, they are losing their land, they are losing their culture, they are losing their identity, their language, even their hunting techniques. And often, I think in many cases, it's because they are shifted all the time.
Yeah.
They are shifted from one area to another, or they are living peacefully in one area, and then the next thing they are overrun by another group of people, and in the long run they are completely they lose their whole identity.
Okay, so their displacement is forced by other people who come in their area, so now they can't coexist, and then eventually they move out.
Yes, in many cases that is the case, and with that, you see the images here too. A lot of the identity just flies out of the room as well. They are sadly they often lack education or educational opportunities, and along with that, you can lose your language, your traditions, and everything that is inherent to your cultural group.
So what challenges do the San people face in accessing these things that you've mentioned now, the education, healthcare, employment opportunities, and how do these contribute to circles of poverty and marginalization in their communities?
I think you've actually just summed it up all perfectly. If you lose access to the area that you live,
yeah.
Along with that goes access to your school, to any healthcare center that there might be, but as it is in the areas that they traditionally live in, healthcare isn't a priority.
Yes.
Education isn't a priority,
yeah.
which marginalizes them even further. So it's just this vicious circle.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are the social issues as well, due to high rates of alcoholism amongst the community, and it's a vicious circle.
It's just completely out of the way. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
It's really actually such a sad situation, and I mean, given that they are one of the original inhabitants of the country, and the area that they can live in, inhabit, is just becoming smaller and smaller, and has been taken over by commercial cattle, and the
people
area
buying farms.
Yes, and just the ability to do traditional hunting, it just goes out of the roof. I mean, obviously there's a lot happening to try and assist where they can, by NGOs, by people who feel driven to assist.
Yeah.
But it's not without its challenges either, because as it is, they already feel so misplaced.
Yeah.
They are losing their identity. So I hope in due course this can really change, and that they do get the assistance that they need.
And we can see better days for them.
Yes.
Okay, now we are going to cross over to Ochonjondhupa, where we talk to Enzo Amwele. He's going to be bringing us a live feed. Jereen, hold that thought. We will continue our conversation.
Thank you.
The day of voting, I've just finished casting my vote. I casted my vote exactly at 7 o'clock, and that's the exact time that the voting stations have opened. Yeah, the process is quite effective and very efficient. I spent around on average 5 minutes from the whole process of actually receiving my card, biometrics, casting my vote. And I think it is important as Namibians on this very day, let's all exercise tolerance and patience. Let's all be listening to the officials that are there, ECN and the police officers. They will be guiding us as to what must happen next. It's quite a hot day. I call out on all Namibians out there, have an umbrella with you, be in the shade or some kind of, remain well hydrated because it's quite hot. And let's support one another. Let's allow our special citizens, the senior citizens, the vulnerable individuals and so forth, let's allow them to be given the preferential treatment for them to exercise and cast their votes accordingly. The process of today marks indeed another time in our lifetime where we are exercising and strengthening our democracy, exercising our democratic right by casting our votes. And that is actually for us to choose the political party of your choice and a presidential candidate of your choice. Go out there as Namibians, vote in your numbers. Let's exercise our democratic rights, and God bless Namibia. God bless us all.
This election day, Jereen, is eventful. And now we are learning that, you know, in Omea, the ballot papers are done, so people can't vote at that particular polling station. So now they are being sent to areas that are closer to them. I'm assuming that could be Windhoek, perhaps Rehoboth, and
yes. And Groot-Op perhaps as well. But of course, it sounds like it's not just at Umeå that's an issue. Also at Elisenheim, one of my colleagues said earlier that things had been going smoothly, and we were thinking, yay, maybe we can go there tonight. But it seems at this stage that's not a chance at all. And then also we heard reports that AU officials that are here as observers have not been allowed into any polling stations in Omaruru and at the prison. Okay, at the prison I can understand, maybe it's a bit of a security risk, but that the polling stations themselves, our colleague Precious reported that there was a bit of a confrontation going on as well. And then I also understood that there was a confrontation at the Kleine Kupa police station that was also a polling station opposite Metro. And that's been shut down, but it can't be confirmed.
Yeah, it's just happening. It's happening, it's going, it's moving with the day. But Jereen, let's quickly look at the video about, you know, the ballot papers being done at Omea.
Just to borrow from others, all the surroundings are just running out of books. So I will still continue to try to see where I can get books, but I would advise, if possible, maybe if you know of any nearest polling station where you think there will be no much people. So just hold on. where there will be many people, then maybe you can try. Or else just hang on until I'm trying to find a solution on this. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
You know, I admire the passion of the Namibian people to still have the zeal and that passion to still go and cast their vote after waiting for so long. I love the fact that nobody is discouraged, and nobody should be discouraged until you cast your vote.
Yes, hang in there, please. If you're in the line at 9 o'clock, they need to see you through.
Okay, Jareen, let's continue talking about the San people. I want us to look at how the San people are affected in learning opportunities in school, in institutions. How do you think language barrier in the education systems can impact the academic performance and future prospects of San children, San men and women in tertiary institutions?
Oh goodness, I think for them to get to any tertiary education will really just be a miracle at this stage. As we know, education is a challenge throughout the country, but even worse so, or more so for a marginalized group like the San. Also, mother tongue education is very beneficial until grade 3, but they are not even getting that kind of education. So as soon as they're pushed into a mainstream school, they are literally stuck in the middle of nowhere with nowhere to go, and they don't understand the language. So our lingua franca is English, and they don't understand it all. So that literally has a massive impact on their whole futures. And it starts from smallest children.
Yeah, I love how you spoke about mother tongue, because one of the political parties in their manifestos, AR particularly, said that they are going to nationalize all languages, basically make all languages national languages. Yes.
Well, I think that is fantastic, because so much research has shown from around the globe that mother tongue education, especially in your formative years, is essential to making learning in your adult years so much easier. I think Namibians are very fortunate that most of us speak more than one language. That does help, but I think, and I mean, I'm just a lay person, but from what I've read and seen, mother tongue language is absolutely essential. So if that can happen, it would be brilliant. In actual fact, I think it doesn't matter who wins. It's a policy that should be adopted
by everyone, whoever is coming in the new government. Jareen, I want us to talk about initiatives that could possibly include the San people into society, because from what I've picked up from our conversation, they are left behind, they are excluded in most of the things. Most things cannot benefit them. So how do we take the San people with us?
I don't really think, that's also just my opinion, we must take them with us. They have their own identity and their own culture, and it is an essential part of them being who they are. However, I also said earlier that there are a number of NGOs that are really working towards assisting. Now in the state of drought, it is really, I mean, things are not looking good for the San, but actually for everyone. Generally at this stage it's really bad. But one thing that is working very well for them is the harvesting of devil's claw, which is very positive, and it is exported as well. For those of us that need to lose a couple of Ks, it actually is said to work wonders. But yes, I don't think we must take anything away from them. I don't think we must take them along with us. They have their own culture and their own identity, and that is important, because you and I also have our own culture and identity. And why would you want that to be taken away from you?
I absolutely understand. Let's talk about things that me and you are passionate about. Women.
Yes.
Let's talk about the women of Erongo region. What are some of the job creation initiatives that are currently existing in that region?
Okay, so let's just go back one step.
Yeah.
I think we are really feeling the impact of the fish rot scandal in the Erongo region more than ever at this stage.
Yes.
While many people have gotten their jobs back, it had a very detrimental effect on the whole economy there, and everything shut down to almost a halt. I mean, the Erongo region is fisheries.
Yes.
And suddenly it was just, and even though the fishermen and the fishing companies went up in arms and they said they disclosed their displeasure and they were angry about it, you know, it just fell on deaf ears and then suddenly this whole industry imploded.
Yeah.
And it left thousands and thousands of people without jobs and without a future, and it's still felt today.
Yes.
And I mean, the fish rotters, the horrible people have been in jail for almost 5 years.
Yeah.
And these people are really struggling there. So to move from that in this time, just to keep bread on the table, people have rise to the occasion. If it's now baking bread or opening a kapana stall, but a central part of this is women. And women are vital. I mean, there you also see the markets. Women run markets, and they are innovative. They keep food on the table. They keep the children
Women
in
run
school.
the world.
One of my colleagues, Frida, down at the coast, recently her mom was featured as one of the first female taxi drivers in Swakop. And isn't that just amazing?
You know, I have a cousin who drives a taxi in Windhoek as well, a female cousin.
Oh, you see. So it's not just at the coast. Women all over are rising to the occasion, but I mean, that's what they always say, that makes us the strongest sex. But in the Erongo region, especially so, since many of the breadwinners were suddenly stuck without being able to bring bread to the table.
Yeah.
And it's a dire situation. I also do think that has contributed very much to the whole shack and ghetto situation down at the coast. And then, of course, you also know how often it just happens that one little spark, it flames up and hundreds of people lose their houses.
Yeah.
The image here is not the ideal picture, but sadly shanties are a reality all over the world. I do think in the Erongo region we have a very dynamic and young leadership in both Walvis and Swakop, and that does help a lot. And the governor is absolutely amazing. I think he's
hands-on.
He's very hands-on. And Mayor Trevino Forbes is absolutely someone that I looked up to as well. He is very dynamic, and they have really moved ahead in so many different ways. But there's always ways to go still, and especially with employment creation. The other issue, of course, is people tend to move from peri-urban areas or to urban areas
in
for
search
job.
of better opportunities.
And then the reality is suddenly it isn't.
Yes.
And you're left in squalor and in avid poverty and hungry.
You know what they say from where I come from? They always say that if you come to Windhoek, you realize that being in the north, in the village, is actually better. Your living standards, you're actually better off there. Because in the north, you have food, you have pub every day. In Windhoek, sometimes you might not have anything just to eat.
And that's the sad bit. So, and then add to that Windhoek especially doesn't have a lot of water resources. It just makes it worse, and then it's obviously got nothing to do with the conversation surrounding Erongo, but the construction industry has tanked here as well. I mean, since 2016 it has really gotten worse and worse. So it's not like coming to Windhoek or even to a town like Swakop or Walvis is going to ensure you a better life. Chances are it won't.
What are some of the other challenges that people are facing when it comes to job creation, apart from, relocating to these cities in hopes for a better future, just for you to realize
that that's not going to happen?
Yeah. What are some of the other challenges?
Drugs, alcohol, suicide, depression, mental illness. I mean, the list just goes on. We are hopelessly inadequately prepared for any kind of mental health awareness raising, and it's often seen as a taboo subject, and people don't speak about it often. Sometimes I'm really horrified on Sunday afternoons when we get the police report, and you see how many suicides there are, and it's across all nations, all genders, all age groups, and then you realize how dire situation are you in if you decide to take your own life. So depression is a serious issue.
Yes.
And then alcohol and drugs are rife all over, which is really sad, because we've actually got such a beautiful country with such wide open spaces, and then you think, how did we come to this? I do find that if we want to move ahead as a nation, we can't rely on anybody else to create a job. You need to create it yourself. So back to education, entrepreneurship should really be taught to children from
age 0, if possible.
And they should really get a hands-on experience.
They must start selling sweets at school or somewhere at home after school at tuck shop maybe.
No, we should really encourage entrepreneurship. I find that is absolutely the way of the future. And then the TVET, that is so important. We've become almost very elitist in what we want to be in terms of a profession. Because it comes with this fancy degree and so much money, when in reality what we need is people that work practically with their hands, that can fix geysers, that can weld, that can make items. I find that is actually where everybody's focus should, or not everybody's, I mean we do still need your educated persons, but our focus should be on TVET. It is.
You need to learn the skill. You need to get some skill, work with your hands so you can do it yourself and so you can do it faster. While we are still talking about Erongo, Jerine, and maybe finally, how do housing shortages contribute to informal settlements?
Once again, Aina, this is not an issue that's only done at the coast. It is a countrywide problem. And I often find that political parties make all kinds of promises about how they are going to be changing the world and giving everybody houses. But it doesn't just work like that. You can't say, oh, I'm going to build 300,000 houses in a year, because practically it is just absolutely impossible. It will not work. And then once again you have your middleman that takes his cut and then doesn't always produce the best quality in the long run, and you sit with places that fall apart or where the wind blows off roofs. And once again I find the practicalities of working with your hands can get you past that. Also, that's why I find the Shack Dwellers Federation absolutely have a winning situation, because if I look at all the housing initiatives that there have been across the board, the Shack Dwellers are the ones that enjoy the most success. And it's amazing what they're doing. And people work together to create housing, and it's amazing. I mean, if you look at Matatura in Swakop, there are how many houses that no one's living in because no one can live in it yet. It's not completed because the contractors weren't paid. And there was some middleman that bought a Land Cruiser instead of actually ploughing into putting doors up, if that gives you an idea. So once again, I applaud the Shack Dwellers Federation. Absolutely amazing work.
Absolutely amazing work. I do concur. Now, Jerine, thank you so much for this amazing chat. You know, Jerine, the afflictions of men are many. We can talk on and on and on.
Yes, we can.
And we will not finish. But to wrap up this conversation, thank you so much. And we will be right back. Please do stay with us.
Hallo kykers, my naam is Zoe Karsten en ek wil julle 'n bietjie vertel van Blitz Fokus. Blitz Fokus is 'n weeklikse Afrikaanse program waar ek elke week met 'n nuwe gas gesels oor 'n kultuur of sportprestasie en selfs baie keer iemand spesiaal. En dan gaan ek saam met my MyZone kollegas bietjie gesels oor ons nuus en alles wat in ons jong menslewens aangaan. En moenie vergeet nie, op Blitz Fokus gesels ek oor nuwe Afrikaanse boeke en liedjies wat vrygestel word, en gesels bietjie oor die akteurs en kunstenaars agter die werk. En ek kry julle dan elke Woensdag op DStv kanaal 285 en GoTV kanaal 5 2020. Blitsfokus. Ek sien julle vir die volgende episode.
Only free range. What's right for our laying hens is right for you. Only local, never imported. Only date-stamped eggshells so you know it's still fresh. The only eggs to choose.
Hello viewers, are you ready to take your career to the next level and dive into a world of different industries, different professionals, and of course the careers that are the driving force behind them? Well, if you are, Career Chronicles is the place to be. This is a weekly show that plays every Friday on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25 at 9:30 p.m. So don't miss out and catch the latest episode on Friday.
Tourismus is a TV show that explores various tourist destinations, providing viewers with in-depth coverage of locations, events, and experiences. The show presents detailed insights into destinations, cultural highlights, and travel tips to engage both local and international audiences.
They say that water is life, and that statement could almost be false in Namibia because we are facing a water scarcity. And I'm joined by Francois, who is going to talk about the dam levels, water levels, water scarcity in Namibia, as well as the rainfall. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Aina. How are you? It's so hot.
And
there's no cloud in the sky, and it's so hot in the queues, and we still have to
vote. Yeah,
we still have to vote.
We still have to see this day through. Okay, water is life, Francois, but we are currently short of water. Walk us through the dam levels right now. How is everything looking right now?
If you can open this for me,
Okay.
I will appreciate it. So we have a major drought, and that is actually the worst drought in 100 years. No rain. This is for 10 years been going on. For 10 years we have severe droughts. And we are at this stage where dam levels, we have water scarcity. Like, I am so worried how we will see this through if we don't get enough rain. Remember, it's not only our dams, it's our rivers. Here you can see some visuals from dams from the air. So actually NASA footage. Here you can see how empty our dams are.
Yeah.
So it's a huge concern for the government, for the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, and also for NAM Water.
Yeah.
Right, so the biggest concern at this stage is Von Bach Dam, which feeds the central region.
Yeah.
Von Bach Dam is now 10.7% full of its capacity.
Okay.
And that's, we really have to save water.
Yeah. While we are talking about saving water, what are some ways in which you would encourage fellow Namibians to save water?
There are really many ways we can save water. Take shorter showers. Don't water your garden only in the evening or very early morning.
Yeah.
Don't wash your car with a hose pipe.
Yes.
Swimming pools. Swimming pools.
Don't leave your tap leaking.
Don't leave your tap leaking. Report any leakages to the municipality.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to come back to the other big dam of concern is the Hadap Dam in Marintal. So we saw that the irrigation taps were closed.
Yeah.
So at a certain, when there's a certain level, that was at 7.3%, NAM Water said, close the taps for irrigation. Only water for human and animal consumption.
Yeah.
So Hadap Dam has a very big irrigation scheme, which is like all the lucerne and the grains are there. It's a big basket for our economy. So it's cut off now.
Yeah.
The big milk farmers there of Althaven and List.
Yeah.
And they have to make use of boreholes now. And a lot of income will be lost.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of farmers, they will only receive, if there is rainfall next year, at the end of December next year, then they can harvest again. If they can plant.
Yeah.
If they can. So Hadap Dam is a major concern. Also work losses. Hadap Dam is the heart of Marintal.
Yes.
So if the Hadap scheme is not there, the milk farm has to cut down, and it affects the whole town. And you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see so many businesses have closed down. So it's huge job losses.
Yeah.
Lots of social challenges. You can see it if you visit the informal people there.
The informal settlements, yes.
The informal settlements, people are very poor there.
Yeah.
Right. The other dam that I'm very worried about, that's only at 2%, is Tilda Viljoen, Gubabas. 2%. So what if it's like 2% now? What will it be like January,
or Feb, or even
or
December,
February, or even December?
Yeah.
So that is Tildaviljoen there. You can see it. 2% is nothing.
Yeah.
The previous time I visited the Tildaviljoen Dam, you can drive your bakkie there. There was a bakkie park there. I took a photo of a bakkie park there. So our dam's a big concern. To come back to the Von Bach Dam,
Yeah.
Swakoppoort is one of the dams that's feeding Von Bach Dam, and also Omataku. Omataku is dry.
Nothing.
There's nothing.
Zero.
There's nothing there. Okay. Fortunately, there's also water feeding from the karst area.
Yeah.
So this is Otavi, Grootfontein, which is the karst area, is feeding with pipelines. But NamWater is very worried. For the long term, they look at the Okavango rivers.
Yeah.
But the Okavango rivers, also they are at a record high low. So also there we need some rain. So the only short-term solution now is rain. Fortunately,
and that's like out of our control.
And that's out of our control.
We cannot decide when it's coming.
Yes. So fortunately, Von Bach did get a little bit of inflow, and so it's really just rain now.
It's just, we are solely just dependent on rain.
We are so dependent on rain.
Yeah.
But for long term, it's the Kavango rivers that they will have like a pipeline that feed the central dams.
Okay.
Another big project, and that's also in the manifestos of some of the parties, desalination of seawater. But that is very, very, very expensive.
Yeah.
That's
we don't
very
have the
expensive.
capacity necessarily right now to be able to make that happen. All right, how significant do you think water availability and access to water will be in shaping the voters' decisions today? Do you think maybe it will play a role or not?
It will have a big impact.
Yeah.
I think especially in the south, where the Hadap Dam is, in the Hadap region, and also in the Karas region, also in the Omaheke region, where Tildaviljoen is Omaheke, also Danviljoen there. So it's a big water scarcity. So I think there it will have a big impact on the outcome of the vote. And is it possible to look at Hadap region just to see how we can compare 2019 and 2024 when LPM came in and started playing a role, because LPM is the one party that puts a lot of focus on especially the Nekketal Dam for irrigation purposes. Also the Nauta Dam for irrigation. Those projects, they feel that the projects have to be has to be larger.
I think we can take a look at those stats from LPM. We can look at how LPM did in 2019 and perhaps compared to the previous year. I think it's 2014 there, or was it 2015?
No, 2019 LPM was not in the race, but last year, 2024. 2024, yeah. So you can see the LPM was in second place with 7,103, where SWAPO was 10,000, the winner, with 10,696.
All right, so Francois, how do you think, what are some of the solutions that you can think of that maybe, you know, the incoming government can employ to then solve this water scarcity issue? Yes, you did mention that we are solely relying on rain now, but should rain not come?
Okay, so boreholes. Some of the parties, I will give some of the suggestions that in the manifestos of some of the parties. So boreholes, ground dams, especially in the north. The north also has a dry spell, and the water scarcity there is huge. So some of the suggestions of more ground dams, especially for the farmers, and then of course these big projects like the Okavango and desalination.
Yeah.
So for Neckartal, Nauta, irrigation, the irrigation system, I mean the Neckartal Dam is there.
Yeah.
It's finished, and
it's
where
done,
are
basically.
where are the big irrigation projects? That's what's supposed to. We know they are in the pipeline, but it's been taking years.
Yeah, it's been in the pipeline.
It's been in the pipeline. So I think really in the south, especially in the south, and maybe the east, it will have an impact. The water scarcity will have an impact on the outcome.
Okay. How do you then suggest that parties can regain trust after facing such huge issues such as water scarcity?
That will be very difficult because like we said, it's not really in our hands, but it's about planning ahead. I mean, climate change, the word climate change has been going on. We know that water scarcity was coming because we have been in drought spells for 10 years.
Yeah.
So the planning, it's all about the planning ahead.
All right. Now, Francoise, let's take a look at this, I think very heartwarming video of a 72-year-old lady who says that she particularly stepped out to go and vote today to make a difference, and she is hoping that the pension grant would be increased from 1.6, which is what they are earning now. I know there is a political party in their manifesto that said, listen, if you vote for us, we will increase to 3.5. Now this video is courtesy of Precious Ngitaunapo in Erango.
Le nesa da gito ora sa si dani ha ka ko nku sita ngisi khu khani ibahi ngisi mariro sa ning arobe ka da gito ko nku sti khairo e dani ka da ge ko nku ti ora sa si ba ha ka fer anteri dani ho kaka da ge ko nku king au ge go.
All right, Francoise, when you hear, such sentiments and such reflections, what comes to your mind?
My mother will be turning 84 on 6th of December. And of course, she also wants a bigger pension. I mean, this is peanuts. This is peanuts. How can you live on that?
Yeah.
How can you survive on that?
So you're saying the plea is valid?
It's valid.
Okay.
It's absolutely valid. And if you compare us to South Africa, they get a bigger pension, and I wish we can just at least get on par with them.
But I must commend our elderly people for really going out and voting. I know recently today I read a story about some of the elders in the north. They couldn't vote today because they had not done their voting cards previously because they thought they are going to be allowed to vote the old ones. Just for them to be told today, to be sent back home to be like, no, unfortunately, you can't vote. But I do appreciate, the energy that they are carrying. It's inspiring to the Gen Zs and to all of us in general.
It's amazing that they turn up there, even in a wheelchair, on crutches, with knee guards, and that is amazing. That's inspiring.
Yeah.
Especially to our youth, that, you are young, you are healthy, and someone older and maybe sicker, go out and vote, and you're just lazy and want to sit at home. No, the youth. I'm so glad that the youth is voting this year in their numbers.
Yeah.
That is wonderful news.
While we are still talking about voting, Francis, let's talk about manifestos when it comes to water, okay? SWAPO has said that they are still emphasizing large-scale infrastructure projects such as dams, constructions, desalination plants to address these water scarcity or water shortages. LPM has said and is still advocating for equitable water distribution, while the Landless People's Movement is saying that they want to review water policies to ensure fair allocation of these resources. And IPC is saying, look, we are going to partner with international organizations to implement desalination technologies to ensure that the country's water resilience is against climate change. Now, you can hold that thought. We'll come back and discuss about these manifestos. But now we are crossing over to Kunene, and Octavia Tibes has more in store for us.
Tidage Esther Aibe, she outchoking and Sabidage. Tidage outchok ngarang. Ti kore pia da do kuap ke oraka da hian ke ngai a registration da wada ka hang misa. Sat an mabat vel rang misa ngai ka da kom si ba uap ma. Chi kore pia da jam se uap ke change ki ka ha. Chi da ge tui ba ka man how. Chi da ge tui amngas ka kan kwa. Tui kobab ka kan kwa. Tui kobab ti drang ai ba senske. Tamara kobab kada gen kuap ma Afrikaans kada gen kuap ma Engels kada gen kuap ma tui kobab ti dramio da ge tui ai khase chi tui mis nga ka ma ti ran ai basen om alles de kronen juan am aidara horeske nene connection gi aka aha chi daga tui mis nga tra mi se amasa kup kira ta kai se da ge adan hui chi da maba sin hui ba drami khabe da ge season o si ke a kai turo se auchop ngas kada gran kwao season ngas kada gran kwa am inse o da ge si dara chi daga ansugeti chi amakas chi na ge ngai khrupi to ba ira ha ta maske yung ngai how di bara ha siska yo o ge sivina ngai sta house na ra ahwe so ngas kadra khores ke elke mens verdient die tweede kans wada ge toch tam in a ho ka di da giran ai so kai se da ga excited nen kuis ngas aroma ngu kwe twa da ge kai se da ge ngu uba hura ha hui khara ga I pa di da giran ai kurip ho batske a khida nei nen ngan sto ba si cha si verandering ni how dis chinat giran ai khabi ge empty promises am tuina raha so kore pia da ga kai kanske hida ngui ida registration da ge kami ida maki sa kamet stang mi basa haben an mabat stang muisa aromas aida gerang ida ge koromi kau di transasi.
As we previously mentioned, this election day is very eventful, and in our breaking news, the troop burst in to vote. Allegations are unfounded. The Karas Police Commissioner Marius Katamila has refuted claims that soldiers are being bussed in to vote in Keetmanshoop. These allegations are unfounded. I'm aware of military graduates receiving training at the military farm, and they are voting in Keetmanshoop. They have not been ferried in. Katamila's response came after voters at PSK De Villiers School Hall raised objections to the presence of soldiers who arrived by bus and join a right to vote. Now, NMH contacted the regional commissioner to inform him of the allegation. NDF registered buses were also observed at the VK Rover Hall and at the Multipurpose Youth Center at Tibelgat. A military officer instructed this journalist to delete the photos taken of 30 or more military cadets boarding a bus at a multi-purpose youth center that is happening in Keetmanshoop.
In Keetmanshoop?
Yeah.
Can you believe it? So they deny all the allegations.
Yes, they said the allegations are unfounded. It's absolutely not true, but lucky for us, our journalist was there, and our journalist was instructed to delete this footage. So we can confirm that this had happened, and this we did have the footage, but was instructed to act otherwise. But nonetheless, the events of today will be many. There will be
many. I also heard that at an old age home, only the pensioners, we talked about the pensioner, only the pensioners are supposed to vote there. But one of the pensioners reported and said, no, but yeah, a bus is coming, and we've been sitting in the sun here and waiting for more than 3 hours to vote. But now here are buses coming in with people. Why is that?
I think
that was a question that was asked to me.
Yeah, I think at this particular juncture we can only advocate, for free and fair elections and transparency. We can advocate for unity and solidarity amongst Namibians. Let's work together to ensure that we see this day through.
Yeah. Yes, and as long as everybody can vote,
yes,
because we still have to go, and 9 o'clock is the cutoff time.
Yeah.
So we have to get in line there before 9 o'clock tonight.
Francois, before I let you go, what's your take on the party manifestos regarding water? Just quickly to sum up our conversation.
I'll just quickly summarize.
Yeah.
So desalination, some of them, desalination is a big thing, but like I said, it's very, very expensive. Okavango rivers, for the villages, earth dams. And remember, when there's not water, there's also not water for the livestock and the wild animals, the game.
Yeah.
So in PDM, I have to say, I'm quite impressed with this one. Install water points within 100 meters of communities. Particularly where they're prone to human-wildlife conflict. And human-wildlife conflict, especially in Kunene,
yeah,
it's right
even
there. The dams, you have your dams there, but it gets destroyed by elephants. Your water points get destroyed. So that is a big challenge up in the northwest and also in the northeast.
Yeah.
So this is one of the ideas, one of the solutions.
All right, Francois, we would like to thank you so much for joining us in this conversation, bringing us the information that we really need to know about the water situation that is currently happening in Namibia. And we will be taking a short commercial break, and we will be right back.
Goeiedag, my naam is Arie Hougaard, ek is die aanbieder van In die Tonnel en ons gesels sport internasionaal en ook in Namibië. En as mens in die tonnel is, dan is jy baie naby aan die sportveld. Ons is nie altyd op die veld nie, maar ons gesels met die afrigters en die spelers en kundiges en ons hoor wat gebeur op die sportveld en wat kan gebeur op die sportveld. Ons kyk vorentoe en dit is internasionaal en in Namibië. Altyd 'n groot klomp sportaksie ook in Namibië, so ons kyk wat daar gebeur en dan natuurlik is dit internasionaal. Is daar die afrigters en die spelers en die kundiges wat altyd die beste mening het. So ons is gereed hier in die tonnel om altyd uit te draf op 'n Vrydag aan. So sluit gerus by ons aan. Dit is 7:30 elke Vrydag aan by In die Tonnel.
And a warm welcome to Glenora Shipura.
Yes.
We are together again.
Yes, we're still in a conversation as we give the nation an overall coverage of the elections as Namibia decides 2024. I did like your conversation with Aina that you guys were having before me. You touched a lot on the water issue in the country and also
partially some of the manifestos that the political parties have in line with that. Could we briefly just expand on the manifestos for some of the political parties?
Yes, so shall we go like party for party?
Yes, party for party.
Yeah,
please.
so for IPC, it's about utilization of seawater for agricultural activities. A very big plan of them is the rollout of public-private development plan for agricultural development at Namibia's underutilized dams, specifically the Neckartal Dam. So the Neckartal Dam is this big white elephant, or can it be developed into
Can you
a
give
big
me the
irrigation
history of the Neckartal Dam?
So there's a lot of controversy around the Neckartal Dam. It was started built in 2013, and there were court cases. It was first an Italian company, lots of court cases. I think that's why in the end it was so expensive. And 2017 finished. So it's years later and still there's no irrigation, because that was the big original plan. Irrigation so that the people in the south can be self-sufficient and grow their crops. It did not happen, but there are plans. Government has plans in place for next year to get the tenders in. But you know, with tenders, there's always who's going to get the tender? Will it be fair? Yeah, so let's wait and see. For SWAPO, it's for so it's for them very important to get the Neckartal going, all these projects going, especially for food security. Another big thing for the dams are to feed the green schemes. These green schemes are very important for us. It needs to be upscaled. So this is very important. Like I said, PDM wants agricultural modernization, and I touch on it. They also focus on the development of desalination plants along the coast to create water supply line for inland Namibia. But like I said, NamWater specifically said it's a very, very expensive project. For them, also for PDM, construct earth dams in all villages, and then the water points in areas, in communities which is very prone to human wildlife conflict. Where are we now? LPM has a very interesting plan for the Neckartal Dam, and I'm going to focus on this. But I think maybe rather let's take a look at a video from the field, and then we can come back to this.
Yes. So let's go over to Kavango East with Nika Nangolo.
I'm Joseph Kanjimi Hausiku, presiding officer for Mupini Primary School in the Kapako constituency, Kavango West region.
Tell us, how is everything going so far?
So far, it's going well. When we started in the morning, we opened at 7. After opening, we proceeded with the voting. Voters were casting their votes. Then somewhere along the way, the tablet went off. Our tablet went off. Then we switched to the manual system using the Elect 27, which is manual. We fill in the form for them to continue voting. While I called for the IT to bring me another tablet. They brought it, they configured it. It's now perfectly working. So we have it now running. Voters are voting, and I also have some forms for Elect 27. In case it gives me another problem again, I can use it.
Now that was Nikano Nangolo with that video from Kavango East and West. Now we were talking about the party's manifestos in line with the water issue in the country, and you were talking about the LPM's manifesto. I want you to get into the details of that.
This is a very interesting one for me. For the Neketol Dam specifically, transforming the Neketol Dam into a multifaceted water sports and tourism facility is a strategic move that aligns with the broader socio-economic aspirations of Namibia. This development, said LPM, should not merely cater to affluent global tourists. Instead, it must be designed to foster local engagement and provide substantial employment opportunities for Namibians, particularly in areas grappling with unemployment and economic marginalization. So they have big plans. It's very ambitious, incorporating high-quality hotel and accommodation services, as well as recreational amenities like golf courses. They say can create a vibrant ecosystem that attracts international visitors while simultaneously boosting local economies. However, this must be complemented by a comprehensive strategy to ensure the local communities benefit from these developments. Investments in training programs for hospitality and service industry skills are essential, the LPM says, enabling Namibians to take on roles within these facilities. So
it's quite ambitious.
It's quite ambitious.
It's quite ambitious.
But we should never forget there is such a thing as agri-tourism. That is a big thing that we have not exploited.
It's a good thing that you
yet.
should mention that, because I wanted to literally ask, how rooted are these manifestos and promises in reality, and how possible is it? And the fact that you're saying there is something as agri-tourism, and I don't think a lot of people know about that.
Yes, and if there's one place that's a very, very good example, is Stamprit. Stamprit, there is a huge development for agriculture, for education, and there are beautiful guest houses. And
I think I have bought products from Stamprit in the grocery shops.
Yes,
So
there's the Big Roots project, but that's not only that. And you know, it's pecan-nuts. There are so many crops there. You cannot believe this. And weaveries. I didn't know that until I got there. There's a gin like a gin distillery.
I did not know
There's
that.
a wedding venue that's beautiful. So yes, these plans seem very ambitious, but we have to see a bigger picture with agri-tourism. It's really something we can invest in here in Namibia, because in Namibia, agriculture, tourism, the hunting industry, it's all intertwined. And we have to realize that. And you know, if we can have ski at Von Bach Dam, why not have tourism facilities at Neketol Dam?
Yes, exactly.
Why not?
And thank you for bringing me to the concept of agri-tourism. Like I said, I don't think a lot of us understand that those two can coexist.
Yes.
I know you touched on the SWAPO Party's manifesto.
Yes.
You touched on LPM. I think you also touched on PDM. Could we
I did
go
touch on
through
PDM.
the Independent Patriots for Change, their manifesto in regards to...
I did this I did the first one. That's a desalination.
Is that from the IPC?
That's from the IPC. Yes, that's from the IPC. Can we? I just want to come back to the Notre Dame. There's also the Notre Dame the irrigation there has to be expanded.
So I think we do have to, before you continue with that, we do have to go for a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more election coverage.
Only free range. What's right for our laying hens is right for you. Only local, never imported. Only date-stamped eggshells so you know it's still fresh. The only eggs to choose.
On 27 November 2024, we come together as one nation.
United by our shared vision for a better tomorrow. Join Election Watch on NTV.
As we bring you live coverage and in-depth analysis as a hashtag Namibia Decides 2024.
Tourismus is a TV show that explores various tourist destinations, providing viewers with in-depth coverage of locations, events, and experiences. The show presents detailed insights into destinations, cultural highlights, and travel tips to engage both local and international audiences. Now we do have some breaking news developments as chaos erupted at the airport. About 1,000 plus people and only one booth. Police have chased everyone outside, although they stood in the queues for hours because the airport staff must vote first. Now, polling officials and police don't care about elderly, pregnant, and women with babies on the back. This is according to the reports that we are getting on the ground at the airport. What is your take on this developing story, Twebo?
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of similar incidents. If you look at the reports that have been coming through today from our reporters from across the country, there's been reports about logistical issues or people having been in a queue and then suddenly a new queue just starts from somewhere else, and those that have been in the queue since 4 o'clock in the morning, they have to now either join this new queue and go to the very back of that queue or something like that. And they were even calling the police in the morning to say the police ought to come here, because when we are telling these people ourselves, they're not listening. So we need some sort of authority to enforce order. So I'm not too surprised really at what is happening at the airport, but it's very, very unfair that polling officials are actually the ones at the forefront of this kind of behavior.
Well, we will discuss more on these. Now, we now cross over to a call with the Secretary General of the IPC, but in a little bit of time, not quite right now. Can you give me more sentiments on some of the mayhem that is happening at polling stations?
Yeah, only as a journalist, but as a voter. And I only managed to vote now at...
So you did manage to vote. I do have to share with you a little secret. So I bumped my thumb a few weeks back.
Yeah.
And everybody is assuming that I voted, but I did not manage to vote yet. And I have to tell them I still have to go vote.
Yeah.
So you were at the polling stations.
Yeah.
What was the general feel there?
It was just bad because I'm asking, for example, why are we having these elections in November? I mean, why can't it, I mean, there's a reason why it happened like that in 1989. It was a transition. It was at the behest of the United Nations that oversaw that election. But after that, when we could stand on our own feet, you thought, we could then revise the processes and systems to our own realities and say, look, November is a very hot month. Why don't we do it in May? Why don't we do it in June when it's cold, it's cooler, so that people can brace some of these things? Because what I saw today at Simebasia Primary School polling station, there might be over 400 people in the queue, and some didn't have chairs or hats or water
or umbrellas, anything
and people were just bracing the heat, and I've never seen anything like that. I thought that was very, very bad.
Yes, and it's also, like you said, it also does turn away sometimes the voters who want to go out and vote, and then they see the long queues, they see that there's no tents or anything to accommodate them as they queue up in these long queues, you
can only be
hoping to exercise their democratic right to vote.
The process must be made smoother. We knew all along that the electronic voting machines, which we used in the 2019 election, has been discontinued on the order of the court, meaning that everything was going to happen manually. We had known this for 5 years. And somehow the amount of preparation that went in there does not meet the efficiency expectations that we had. I mean, it's simply not very, very sad to see people who came so early having to leave queues halfway, because I went to that polling station at 6 o'clock, at 10 o'clock, and I was hoping that by 2 o'clock I would be done. But I was not, so I had to leave the queue.
All right, we now cross over to have a call with the Secretary General of the IPC.
Let's see if Christine can hear me. Can you hear me, Christine?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah.
So
I can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you for making time for us. We just wanted to engage you quickly on what is emerging to be a very serious logistical nightmare as far as the preparations of ECN for this election is concerned. What are you getting from your people on the ground as far as things like ballot papers running out and stuff like that are concerned?
Toivo, the problem seems to be a national-wide problem. I've just gotten off the phone from one of our coordinators in Coritas, where
I think we seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, we'll see how soon we can get Christine back on the line, but it's important, I think it's important that you stay tuned, because we really need to speak to her.
Yes. Let's continue our conversation. You mentioned that the previous elections we were using EVM machines, the electoral voting machines, and now we are back to the ballot paper. Would you say that is some of the reasons that's causing the mayhem at some of the polling stations?
Yeah, I mean, technology is evolving. Every nation ought to review and revise its processes to make things easier, and for us, we can't be behaving like this is still 1989 when we held our first election, we ought to have continually evolve with the times. And I simply do not accept that things are manual in the true sense of just manual. Machines are not working. There was an incident in the afternoon of a machine that has apparently froze in Okahanja, and there was even another polling official who was saying that it doesn't matter how many machines you provide.
This is the current weather in the country.
Exactly.
I mean, we are at 36 degrees Celsius, and this is sunny weather for the full day. That's the forecast that's predicted for the day. Like you said, people are in long queues.
Yes.
They don't have water. They don't. Some of them, you said, they don't even have hats or umbrellas. There's no provisions made for people to be.
I mean, look at those guys on the screen. You could see that only a few people have, there are people standing there. Some don't have caps, some don't have umbrellas, some don't even have chairs. These are people that are eager to really endure whatever problems they have to in order to vote. But ECN ought to meet them halfway and say, we understand your appetite and your willingness, and this is how we are meeting you halfway. Not what we are hearing now, ballot papers running out and stuff like that. Yes.
What would you say was the better? I don't want to say this was better or not, but it looks like the 2019 election process went a little bit smoother and better than what we are currently seeing. So would you say it's mainly because we've moved to the ballot papers and moved away from the EVMs, or is it a combination of other factors?
No, I think there's this time around. I think there's a number of factors. I think, of course, EVMs made life easier. The EVMs made life easier for ECN in 2019. But this year we have had the problem right now is a combination of both the absence of EVMs. Plus, I must really say that I feel that there's a lot of incompetence.
And this is the current weather in Oshakati rather, sorry. It's at 37 degrees Celsius, also sunny weather. So it might look like throughout the country it's quite hot. And people are exposed to, these harsh conditions.
Yeah. Let's try again to see if Christine can speak to us now. We can see you more clearer now, Christine. I hope we will also be able to hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, talk to us about that call that you got.
Yes, so I was saying that the situation seems to be really, really critical because I'm consistently being inundated with phone calls from our representatives. Just now, as I was speaking to you, I had 2 phone calls coming in with the same issue of ballot papers running out. I've been in constant communication with Xenia Klassen of the ECN Director of Operations, as well as the CEO. In Caps Farm, at Hosea Kutako, Elisenheim, Brabwater, Korigas, all the polling stations have run out of ballot papers. I've also heard somewhere in Windhoek Rural they've run out of ballot papers, and it is really taking a long time for those ballot papers to be delivered. For example, in Finkenstein, I was informed by the CEO that the matter has been resolved. I again got a call that at 16:38 the ballot papers had still not been delivered. That's a 2-hour break from when the ballot papers ran out. So it's really, really difficult for us to be able to encourage people to remain in the queues. I've also now just been informed as I got off the call with you that at the Windhoek Central Prison, the officers who went to vote there were informed that the machine is not working. But when one of our representatives got there to deliver seals to our agents, they found that people are still busy voting inside. So there's a lot of disorganization going on. There's a lot of confusion going on, inconsistencies in terms of the information that is being given from presiding officer to presiding officer, from region to region. It's just inconsistencies. We are really worried that, there are already concerns that I'm receiving that could this be a way of the ECN suppressing voters, voter participation, because there are some people who've been at polling stations, for example, at Mandume Primary School in Katutura since 2 a.m., and they've still not casted their vote. So it becomes very, very discouraging for members of the public to continue in this scorching sun. I heard you talk about temperatures being very hot, to continue to stand in those queues to try and cast their votes. It's really, really very, very worrisome that these things are happening.
Yeah. What is Xenia Klassen of ECN saying to you? I'm asking this because we know that the number of ballot papers that were printed are over 3 million for just 1.4 million people that are registered to vote in this election. So we have actually, technically speaking, there's enough ballot papers. What seems to be the issue?
That is the thing, Toivo. We have got 1.6 ballot papers for the presidential vote, and we also have 1.6 million ballot papers for the National Assembly. It's a matter of disorganization, I tell you, because yesterday we were informed to go to the ECN as they were setting up the Central Election Results Center. We got there and the room wasn't even ready, and this is on the eve of elections. Only this morning, when I went to get my fingerprints taken for access, did I see that the room was actually ready for occupancy this morning. So there's a lot of problems with the ECN process. They've had 5 years to prepare for this election. They gave us a calendar earlier in the year, and still they are not meeting those deadlines that they've set for themselves. Xenia keeps telling me they are attending to it, but you don't get feedback as to what really is the issue. Shouldn't they have a roving vehicle, for example, in a region like Comas, where all the constituencies are within one region? It's not that far from each other that ballot papers are running out. If they knew that Windhoek Rural is a hotspot for ballots running out, because everybody migrates to Windhoek Rural to cast their votes, hoping that they can escape the queues in the city center. So this thing should have been organized. There should have been a vehicle waiting with paperwork already done, so that when a polling station calls, all you do is complete the name of the polling station that requires the extra ballots. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah. In closing, Christine, talk to me about what are you getting from your, how do you call the officials that you have deployed at polling stations to monitor the situation in terms of, I mean, apart from logistics, in terms of things like just fairness and transparency. What are you hearing on that front, and what is your last message to those that are still in the queue? I've seen some people speaking to my reporters this afternoon saying, come rain or sunshine, they will vote today. But what are your words to them?
Yes, basically, some of the reports, or the most prominent reports really, is the slow pace in majority of the stations where our agents are deployed. It is moving extremely slow for people to cast their votes, and that is becoming a problem. Other than that, we've also gotten reports of people who are cutting queues, where the police officers are sort of inserting their own people into the queues at the expense of those who've been there since the morning or since dawn. And those are the challenges that we are receiving. The other issue pertaining to the long queues, I would just like to urge Namibians to make sure that they sacrifice today. It's the only day we have to really make our voices heard. Let us endure as much as we can. We are pushing as political leaders from our own quarters to try and make this as durable and as conducive as possible by putting pressure on the ECN to ensure that this process is done and completed for everybody. So Namibia is the land of the brave. Let us ensure that we demonstrate that bravery today to make sure everybody casts their vote and make their voices heard.
Yeah. No, thank you, Christine, for really coming on short notice. So we appreciate the feedback, and if need be, we will talk to you again maybe later or even tomorrow, but thank you for your time.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, so
Some
that is
alarming information.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of problems there, really, because running out of ballot papers, really, after so many were brought in the country, people were even asking, perhaps jokingly, to say, if we are only 1.4 people that are voting, why have you printed so many? Do you want to rig elections and stuff like that? But really the aim, generally, the principle of bringing in so many ballot papers is to make sure that they are available at all material times during this process, and it's sad to hear that that is not the case.
Yes, and like you said, it looks like there's a lot of disorganization and a lot of miscommunication, whereas you said sometimes people will be queuing up to vote and then another queue forms up. There's accusations of people jumping the lines, and there's just seemed to be mayhem, and it's not only just in the capital city but all over, as we have reported throughout the day. I don't think we have talked quite as much on the ECN and the electoral process and their mandate to the Namibian people. Can we talk a little bit on that?
Yes. Yeah, look, I think that if you look at the law that guides our elections, if you look at the guidelines, everything on paper is actually very good. I am honestly worried about the level of competence. That I must just be blunt and say it as it is, because we've had the ECN is not a body that was just established 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's a body that has been in existence for over 30 years, and it cannot continue to act like it's just a baby. It's a big institution. This is our 8th general election. Apart from your small by-elections that are held here and there, the general election, this is the 8th that we are having since independence, and we ought to have mastered the art of really doing this process without a lot of hiccup, and that worries me a lot.
Do you foresee people still in queues long after? I mean, I know the polling stations are supposed to close at, is it 10 p.m.? Do you foresee people still in queues at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. on the 28th of November? Do you see that?
Yeah, in fact, I was prepared myself to do that. Because I was just lucky that to the last poll, because like I said, this is the 3rd polling station that I went to today, and I was lucky to vote now, just less than an hour ago. But I was prepared to say that when I knock off later this evening, I'll go to the queues, and if it means voting only at 6 in the morning, I'll do that, because I hold this process so dear to my heart. When I went to where I voted now, I bumped into a colleague of mine who works with us here, I won't say who told me that he woke up in the morning, went to a polling station in Greenwell Matongo at 3 o'clock in the morning. He's still in the queue there. He's still in the queue. Imagine someone having been in the queue since 3 o'clock in the morning, and now it's 5 o'clock. It's unacceptable.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
and
because they wanted to.
And they still have not voted at this hour, which is really, like you said, very concerning. And I'm guessing some people, and me included, we will definitely see ourselves in the queues at 3 a.m. in the morning. Back to the ECN and the role of election observers. I don't think Namibian, or I understand actually the role of the election observers in the country.
Yeah, observers are supposed to do exactly that. I think people tend to think that observers are only here to see elections through the lenses of rigging and not rigging, and then they declare them free and fair. But like I stated earlier today with one of the presenters here, one of the colleagues here, I said that you can't confine elections to the old and conventional definitions of free and fair. it's not fair if somebody has been in the queue from 3 o'clock a.m. In the morning until 5 now, they are still in the queue. There's nothing fair about an election like that. There's nothing free about people having to wait for 3 or 2 hours because at the station that has run out of ballot papers. It's not fair on those people. It's not maybe even free because, I mean, it's a lot of problems. So when observers talk about free and fair elections, usually they say, oh, there was no rigging, there was no this, there was no that. But we have to look at the overall picture. And for me, that is a very, very important consideration when they give their final report to say this is how it went. They have to mention some of these things.
All right. So you do go a little bit in depth in terms of the election observers and their role. And like you said, like a free and fair election also means that you do not have to sit, or to stand in a queue from 3 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you still have not voted. That is not fair.
It's not fair. Absolutely not.
Okay, we now cross over to Ohone, who is going to be giving us what's happening on the ground in the Commerce region.
Good afternoon to you guys in the studio.
Good afternoon. How are you, Ohone?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Where are you finding yourself right now?
I am in Katutura right now. I'm at the Matiatisari Primary School, and from observation, voting seems to be going quite smoothly here.
Yes, can you tell us are there any challenges or delays in the voting process?
No challenges or delays. Currently, while I was waiting for the call to be made, there was a large group of people that were allowed to come into the polling station to be able to conduct their voting. I've also observed that an elderly lady was allowed to jump the queue, and she will proceed to vote shortly.
Are there any key concerns that the voters are raising while they are queuing, while they're in the queue to vote?
From observation, everything here seems very well organized as compared to other polling stations. Earlier, I was at the Elisenheim polling station, and there was a lot of commotion because there were no ballot papers. But compared to that one, compared to this situation, it's quite smooth here.
Are voters discussing specific parties, candidates, or anything of that nature?
It's very composed, it's very quiet. Everyone seems to be minding their own business and just waiting for the voting to be concluded.
Oh, thank you.
Just a quick one, Ohone. We are getting reports of.
I beg your pardon?
We are getting reports of some polling stations running out of ballot papers and stuff like that. Is that an issue where you are, or you everything is okay there?
No. That is not an issue here. It seems to be quite a sufficient number of ballot papers. Like I said earlier, when I was at the Elisenheim, there was a lot of commotion and a lot of angry voters because of the fact that there was no ballot papers at that specific ballot polling station.
Yeah, maybe the final question from us, or me rather, is just the queues, because we are seeing that people at some polling stations are still, the queues are still long, and there are some people who are
just
saying,
a bit louder, please.
Yeah, you can't hear me properly. Okay, I'm saying in terms of the queues there, is it manageable? Is it long, or is it getting shorter and shorter with time?
I believe it's getting shorter and shorter by the time, as compared to this morning when it was quite full. And if you can look at the background, that is the number of queues, the voters that have been captured, and then there are some standing outside at the gate, but not a lot. I would think probably under 300.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for your time.
Well, it's good to hear that some polling stations are, having positive reports coming in from there. So that's at least a sigh of relief that it's not just mayhem everywhere. So you and I, we did cover quite extensively some stuff regarding the ECN, the election observers. Any final words regarding those two?
No, I mean, so we can talk and talk. I mean, ECN know their responsibility. They ought to know their responsibility towards the Namibian people. They are a publicly funded institution. we are not at the mercy of ASEAN. They are obliged to treat us properly and with kindness and with efficiency. And I mean, I saw Job Ampanda posting just maybe 40 minutes ago that he's encouraging people to stay in those queues, saying that one day of suffering, if this is suffering, is better than 5 years of suffering if you compromise the process, you go home, you don't vote, and then the outcome comes out the way that you don't like, and then for 5 years you have to endure that legacy of your decision. And then my colleague Kenya Kamboe just said on our WhatsApp group a while ago to say it is amazing how people were in this heat during these rallies and all that. You know, some of them were even fainting. But now suddenly, for when the most important day of their political life arrives, then they cannot do the same.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Of course, you will still be with us as we cover the elections. More election coverage coming up after this.
Tourismus is a TV show that explores various tourist destinations, providing viewers with in-depth coverage of locations, events, and experiences. The show presents detailed insights into destinations, cultural highlights, and travel tips to engage both local and international audiences.
Chill Sessions is a music video countdown where we count down the top 5 Namibian music videos for the week. On the show, we also get to interview artists who are behind these music videos. The show airs every Saturday at 7 p.m. on NTV.
We're still continuing giving you election coverage as hashtag Namibia Decides 2024. I'm now joined by Brian. How are you? Good afternoon. I know that you were here earlier talking with Diana, and I think you guys touched a little bit on the world of sports and how that interlinks with, you know, the political sphere.
Yeah, no, we thank you for having me, Glenn. We were touching a bit on the stadiums, a bit on small things like contract for players and stuff like that. But yeah, glad to be back again, and based off what we're hearing, there's a lot of chaos.
There's a lot of chaos
at
the polling stations. I know you and I, we still need to go cast our vote, and we will be doing so, and we might see ourselves in queues at 6 a.m. But that is what is the price we pay for shaping the country?
I guess so.
Yes, the price we pay for shaping the country. Now, getting into some of the manifestos that the parties have in regards to, you know, getting into the world of sports and developing that sector. Can we get into some of the manifestos that the parties have made regarding that?
Definitely. I think one of the most interesting one has to be the one by SWAPO that plans to invest close to $6.9 billion into sports over the 5 years. So that's one of the biggest mentions, and that's one that I would like to take a look at because their main focus is infrastructure and building stadiums. So that's one that we can definitely focus on.
Yes, I see in the manifesto they say that they propose building basic sport facilities in all 121 constituencies. There's the CAF Grade 2 facilities in all 14 regions and 5 Grade 3 facilities for international events. Now, I don't know how the grading process is and what a Grade 2 or a Grade 3 looks like. So I think you can give me a basic understanding of what that is.
Okay, so Grade 2 is more of that has the standard to host not local games, but let's say under 18 international sort of games. But the serious ones now, the CAF accredited ones are the ones that have, for example, they need to have seats and not just concrete bases where people sit, so that you can account for how many people at the stadium. The grass has to be up to standard. The players need to be safe from the spectators. There should be something that separates the players and the spectators, of course. So those are just a few of the things that are put into consideration before a stadium is accredited.
Oh, so that's what that means when they're talking about the grade 1 or the grade 2.
Or the grade 3, yes.
Yes, and so forth. And they also promised to upgrade to national sports facilities, including the Independence Stadium, ensuring that Namibia's teams can play home games locally.
Look, the struggle of us having to play our home games in South Africa has been going on for a very long time now. So we've heard about them wanting to do renovations on the Independence Stadium, on the Sam Nujoma Stadium, but nothing has been done as of yet. So hopefully that actually turns out.
$6.9 billion is the investment that they are promising to invest in this sector. Would you say these promises are rooted in a realistic outcome?
No. I would say no. If you go back and look at the promise that they made of building basic sport facilities in all 121 constituencies, that already puts me off by far. So for me, it's a bit
in a span of 5 years. It's not just going to happen overnight. A span of 5 years. Basic sports facilities in all 121 constituencies.
Yeah, if I honestly have to take a look at that, the amount of time, even just to get the tender for the Independence Stadium that was spoken about on the 30th, I think, of August, till today, we don't have that tender out yet, but it was said the tender was going to come out end of September. We are now entering in December, and nothing has been given to anyone yet. So thereby the constructions of 121 or in 121 constituencies, I feel like it's a bit maybe far-fetched.
And what about upgrading some of the stadiums to, as it says here, to a grade 2 or a grade 3 facilities? How realistic is that within also the time frame stipulated?
I think if we look at it, the most realistic things that can happen is the renovation of the Independence Stadium and the renovation of the Sam Nujoma Stadium. Those are at least the two things where I feel that they are not. You can reach those goals. You don't need a lot of money, but not as much as you do with the whole project for 5 years. Because look, Ongos have come into the game. Ongos have proposed that they're going to be building multi-sport, I think between $3 and $4 billion worth, that is NFA accredited, that can host international matches, and they plan on doing it in the next 3 to 5 years. Yes. So that's now building from scratch. So if they can do that in 5, then renovating a stadium shouldn't take that long. So
I hear what you're saying. Building is a different ball game all on its own. Now let's move on to another political party. I know several political parties do have manifestos, and they have made promises regarding the world of sports. Let's touch on PDM.
PDM. Looking at what PDM have said, they plan to construct 10 multi-purpose sports centers in major towns, including Windhoek, Swakopmund, and Keetmanshoop by 2030. Promises to establish a national sports education board to nurture talent from grassroots to elite levels, and to increase the budget for sports, youth, and culture.
Would you say this is in line with the needs of the youth in sports? Or is it, airy-fairy promises, for lack of a better word?
Look, the fact that we're saying they want to do this by 2030, we're looking at 6 years?
Yes.
More or less 6 years. I think...
not even, I think it would be 2025. Yeah.
We're in 2025, basically, so let's say 5.
Yes.
If they plan on building 10 multi-sport centers, I think the fact that they want to build 10 multi-sport centers is already a good thing, because the focus has only been on football. The focus has only been on football, and no one has been focusing on other sports. So if it's multi-sports, realistic 10?
I mean, 2030.
What do you think?
It's 5 years. You just mentioned now the work that needs to take place to just build like one stadium. And this is, like you said, 5 years. But we don't know their plans. And just like we don't know what SWAPO's plans are to execute it. Maybe you might see it this way and there's another way to, you know, achieve it faster. But yeah, so obviously there are question marks. How realistic is this? Yeah. Now moving on to Independent Patriots for Change, I know they do have something in line with the sports in their manifesto.
They definitely do. If we have a look at that, the IPC manifesto emphasizes grassroots sports development, aiming to empower rural and youth through accessible sports programs. It also discusses better funding mechanism for local sports organizations to encourage broad participation. That's their focus.
So better funding mechanism. I want to understand what does that mean? Meaning there's going to be more funding for sports related fields, or what does that mean exactly?
I think it's more funding, but not just more funding. It's a thing of focusing on, for example, not overusing money on unnecessary things. Like I think Diane and I spoke about this earlier, the fact that, let's say we send out a team of 22 players to Ivory Coast to take part in the AFCON tournament, yet, let's say we have a squad of 22 players, a full squad of 30 with the coaches and everyone, but yet at the end of the day we end up sending 52 people or 50 people. The question comes back to, why are all these people going with, if they do not, is it for moral support or
why do we need all these administrators?
Why do we need all these people
with the team?
Yes.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, S&T has to be paid to all of these people, but is it necessary for everyone to come with it? I think that's what IPC is going to be focusing on, and just trying to cut that budget and make sure that money is spent in the right places and not just
efficiently spent.
Yes.
Let's quickly touch on the Landless People's Movement Manifesto.
Okay, I'll gladly jump onto that one now. We do have a video though of the marketing administrator from Ongos that just tells us more about their stadium and what they're building, and he speaks more on the elections and how 2025 will pan out for them. So that's, I think, going to be a very interesting video to look at.
Basically, we're planning to develop a 30,000-seater stadium.
30,000
on Ongos Valley. So the stadium we envisaged to be both FIFA accredited, World Rugby, and IAAF accredited.
Okay.
So it's a multi-purpose sports complex that we're pretty much trying to develop on Ongos Valley.
Sure. Okay, so it's IAFF
yes.
is athletics.
Athletics.
And then we have rugby as well, and then also soccer, because I mean we're already struggling with the stadium. So you guys just want something that can accommodate everyone.
Correct. And not only, when you think about it, the stadium is actually part of a larger sports complex. So when we say the three main sports, rugby, football and athletics, we're also going to accommodate the other sports. So there's going to be an indoor hall, so you can play basketball, you can play netball, and obviously also hockey fields and cricket as well.
And you know, when we saw the news, I think everyone was very excited. Everyone was buzzing, and at some point I thought, this can't be. This can't be. So how long will it take for us to get that running, and how long do you expect it to? Yeah, how long do you expect it to take before we?
Well, with the big projects such as the stadium, it's a large infrastructure project, right? So with that, there's still a lot of regulatory approvals that you have to go through. And the whole development process must still continue. But what I can tell you is that from when we have groundbreaking, it is a 3-year construction period. I'm sorry.
Okay, so
and then you'll have a fully functional stadium at Ongos.
I think that video is a testament of why you are the digital sports journalist of the year.
Thank you, Glenora.
Yes,
Thank you.
And you are 2 times a winner, right? Let me get the facts right.
Yes, it's I've started back to back now.
Look at you being humble about this.
I wasn't actually humble at the awards.
Oh, you're humble now.
Yeah,
now.
Now it's settled in, and I'm back to normal now.
Well, thank you so much for bringing some of these information to people like me who, you know, we are in the world of sports, in air quotes, and I would have not known as much as the information that you've given me. Now, before, I don't want to let you go before we touch on just 2 more of the political parties. I think we were about to touch on the LP PM and also AR's manifesto?
Okay, I'm going to touch on the AR affirmative. So this is what they said. The AR manifesto focuses on integrating sports development into urban planning, processing the inclusion of community sport facilities, new residential areas to promote healthy lifestyle and youth participation.
Yes, and what are your thoughts on that?
It's a different, they're having a different take or a different angle to the whole situation. Their focus is more on lifestyle and health and the youth. And I think, yet again, like how Diana and I spoke, when we look at sports, everyone mostly just focuses on the results. So at the end of the day, if the results are not good, people are not happy. And then we just go at the people that are at the top of the management and just say we are not getting results. So looking at how Namibia did at the AFCON, qualifying for AFCON, reaching the round of 16s, of course. And then after that, what happened was we got knocked out, came to COSAFA, a tournament we've won before, and we got knocked out of that as well. So people now started pointing fingers and looking at the players and stuff like that. But if you look at the gap between the time when we played AFCON and when we played COSAFA, the local players or our Namibian players were off because the league ended. So everyone was just at home, people were just relaxing, chilling, you know, taking it easy.
They were not training,
No
they
one
were
was
not
training. No.
busy preparing.
Preparing for what? Because there's no league, there's no dates, there's no consistency in the Deb Marine Premiership as to, they don't stick to dates as to when the leagues are playing. So everyone bashed the players for not performing, but the thing is, the players went a very long time on a break, just relaxing, while the other countries, Angola, Zimbabwe, Botswana, who have now qualified for AFCON for the first time, all the teams were continuing with the leagues. So the players were fit and the players were ready to play. So by the time we got into the competition, the results were not showing. But no one will take a look and say, these guys were off for 3 months. No one was playing.
I think you and I will talk forever. Let's quickly take a look at what Zoe Karsten has for us in the Hardap region.
Goedemiddag, my naam is Caitlin Bekes. Ek is geplaas by Rebos, West Urban by RPS. Sover het ons oggend baie goed afgeloop, niks hiccups en so niks probleme gehad nie, so en die proses is ook baie vinnig. So ek glo ons sal verder 'n goeie dag hê.
Now, you did highlight a few issues that the people in the sport industry in Namibia are facing. Could you talk about some of the gaps briefly, though, that the sporting industry needs and the support that it could get? Yeah, so like you said now, like there's no leagues, for instance, and the players were not ready for the next, you know, playoffs tournaments that they had because there's no local leagues. So we need support, or they need support in that regard. What other support would you say they need in not only just soccer, but just sports in general?
I think we need consistency. That's number one, what we need. I think we need to, if a league is established to start on a certain date, it should start and it should not end without it being properly communicated beforehand already. I think that's number one. And then number two, grassroots level programs are, for me, the most important things in Namibia to grow sports. And yeah, I think that's what does it for me.
Well, thank you. More election coverage coming up right after this.
Yes, viewers, and we are back. I'm joined by Diana once more. Diana, it's been a long day, hey?
It's been a really, really long day, but hey, we didn't get to finish our conversation earlier. So
Yes,
I think now we get to dive in depth, especially with the manifestos. You briefly touched on them with Glenora, but now we get to really dive deep.
Okay, so look, we did touch on the manifestos. Now I think we should break down and talk more about the weaknesses and the strength of the manifestos. We'll start off with SWAPO, but looking at the polling issues that we do have going on, how do you think that can get sorted?
Definitely, the problem, Brian, right now is, and I think Aina's going to touch on this a little later, is overpopulation in the Commerce region. There's a lot of crowding in the Commerce region.
Okay.
So the problem again is the fact that there's only, how can people only have one, like they can only, it doesn't make sense.
No.
It doesn't make sense. Because if you have that many registered voters, then you need to have at least maybe 2 or 3, because this is why the lines are so long. This is why the lines are so long, because they can only vote, there's only one place for them to vote at these polling stations.
That's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic, and it's frustrating, because if I've been in the queue since 5 a.m., come on now.
And I think it's really bad, because look, if you look at the youth, these are people who tend to be very impatient. I'm speaking now from a youth perspective, very impatient. So if you have to show up somewhere at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's close to 6 o'clock now, and you're still in a queue, the chances of you just getting up and leaving are very high.
This is what we've been saying since the morning. And the thing is, thanks to TikTok, thanks to YouTube Shorts, thanks to Instagram Reels, our attention span has significantly gotten way shorter. So now imagine standing in a queue. I guess the good thing is that we can entertain ourselves. We are people that have become so self-sufficient on entertaining ourselves. I can guarantee you there are going to be many people with power banks, a lot of data, or even downloaded videos. Is there
Wi-Fi though, where they are, is the question, because not everyone has data now. So.
But the thing is, that's what I'm saying, like a lot of us youth, we're probably even prepared. For example, if I know I'm going somewhere where there's no data, I'm going to download videos on YouTube to watch later. Even Netflix, Showmax, whatever it is, you download offline just to make that process less daunting.
Yes.
Okay, but now let's go back to talking about sport.
Okay.
How do you think sports have been represented in the 2024 political manifestos of the various parties?
Wow. I don't think there have been. I don't think a good job has been done, straight to be honest. A lot of promises have been made, none of them have been lived up to. Sad story is, I think one thing that I just remembered, we cannot host IAAF events, we cannot host athletic events in Namibia. And I remember there being a chat of, it was something that they were working on, that we were supposed to have in the pipelines, and here we are till today, and nothing has been done. So if I have to be honest, I would say, no, it doesn't. There hasn't been a good job done there.
There hasn't been a good job done. But earlier on, we did speak about grassroots level, and it's mentioned a lot, or rather quite often in political manifestos. What practical measures do you think are necessary to ensure that these promises translate into tangible support for the youth?
That's a very good question, Diana. I think I'll have to think about that one for a while, but to have them implement or make sure that the things they see it through. Is there anything that can be done is the question first. Is there anything that can be put in place to make sure that these things happen? I'll have to.
This is something you have to sit and think. Yeah.
Right now, I can't think of anything that you can just put in place to make sure that these grassroots level programs are taken up, or that they are made sure, or that they happen. But one of the first things that can be done is, of course, making sure that we do have them set up. We do have
it's
places
important
where
to
they are
start
built.
them even.
I think the most important thing is to start. So if we do have development programs that are put in place, then if the people don't come to the places now, then we can say, okay, cool.
It was there.
It is there.
Yeah, it is there.
The facility is available. Why are we not using it?
Yes.
So then, but now we can point fingers and say there's no facilities.
But then I think also just getting SMEs, corporates to invest in these grassroots sports, like at grassroots level, to invest. Because then again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on. Yes, you as Brian can just decide, listen, I'm going to start for argument's sake, a volleyball academy. Where are you going to get the funds? You know, so I think this is what discourages a lot of people, that
sport is not actually being invested into as much as we would like to see. Because if you look at, for example, the Premier League,
yes,
and I talk about the Premier League because it is one of the most watched.
Was probably the
if
most
not,
watched.
yeah,
If
if not the most watched, then we get La Liga and all of that. But these are people that can make a career off of just playing football.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
No 8 to 5.
No 8 to 5. There was even an argument where people were saying we don't understand why a footballer is getting paid 16 million pounds a week when a doctor is barely making, but we'll come back to that. For now, let's cross on over to Elizabeth Cavers as she is giving us an update right here in the Commerce region.
My name is Thaddeus Oyange, the presiding officer, Havana number 2 sport field. The setup is fine. So the queue for the voters, it's long, but the process is fine. Still, until now, we did not mention any problems. It's only that the queue, but the queue is not a problem because the process inside is fine.
Yeah. From what time did you guys start with setup and start voting here?
Well, 7 o'clock, the first voter starts. At 6 o'clock, we start with setup. Like counting ballot papers and to see everything. Then now everything is fine.
Thank you to Elizabeth for providing that clip for us. Now, again, we're still talking sport, and now we are breaking down the sport aspect that has been mentioned in the manifestos. Let's start with SWAPO. The strengths are comprehensive infrastructure goals. SWAPO's plan to establish sports facilities in all constituencies and regional CAF grade stadiums is, to say, ambitious. This infrastructure would address the shortage of quality venues and reduce the need for Namibian teams to play home games abroad. That's one of the strengths, right?
That's the biggest focus.
That's the biggest focus. Let's talk about substantial investment. Allocating 6.9 billion Namibian dollars for sports underlines a serious financial commitment linking youth employment and national pride to sports development.
Look, that number looks very nice, Diana.
It looks beautiful.
That's a big number.
It looks beautiful. 6.9 billion.
Billion.
Yes.
They want to invest in the next 5 years. If they do invest money like they are saying, like that 6.9, I think a lot can happen.
Yes. And you know what? I think this actually plays in with them trying to cut unemployment, youth unemployment.
Yes.
Because now it's job creation.
It's definitely, that's one of the
job creation.
First things, yeah.
I think things like sport, arts and culture, these are not traditional, careers, but they still provide jobs.
Yes.
And I think if we look at it in that aspect, I'm pretty sure they can inject more into these, like sports, into arts, into culture, because of the job creation.
Yes, but then, as much as we focus on the strength, let's also be realistic about it. So, the scope of the proposal, especially constructing facilities in all 121 constituencies, may face challenges related to resource allocation and prioritization in rural areas. That 121, they want to build at least a sort of playable stadium or a playable sports facility in all 121 constituencies. We're talking about doing this in the next 5 years. What are your thoughts there? What are your thoughts?
I can only say one thing. What happened in the last 5 years?
Exactly.
I think that's where my mind is at, because if you're promising this in the next 5 years, again, very, very ambitious, but then we do have to look at history.
We do. That's the first thing we have to look at, because
we have to look at history.
Critics might argue SWAPO's previous governance track record raises doubts about whether the promises will be fulfilled.
Exactly. Because again, people are tired of promises. People actually want to see something happening. Because then again, I think this is where the youth are actually voicing their opinions a bit more. Because for them, it's kind of like, okay, we are more into these less traditional jobs, but we aren't really being invested into. You see, things like that. Let's move on over to PDM, their strengths.
Let's look at that.
Focus on multi-purpose centers, building 10 multi-purpose centers in urban areas, which is a practical approach that targets high-impact regions. And also, again, as we mentioned earlier, grassroots development, which is establishing a national sports education board, and it reflects a commitment to systematic talent identification and growth.
Okay, that was who?
This is PDM.
PDM.
Yes.
Okay, now looking at the strengths, what are your thoughts there?
Okay, 10 seems doable. In a way, because then again, we haven't really had a track record to go off of.
We really haven't. Let me cut you off quickly.
Yes.
Would you be surprised if in the next 2 years, Independence Stadium and Semnoma Stadium is still not playable to international standard?
No, I would.
I would be. With all the pressure that's coming and with how all the Namibians are not happy about the stadiums.
But then again, Brian, it goes back to that thing of, yes, promises. But implementation is important.
Definitely.
And we always have to go back to the track record. What has been done? I know, yes, we have to turn over a new leaf and, look at things from a fresh perspective.
Yes.
But we still have to look at the previous years.
We still have to track back and say, okay, but then,
what
happened?
I would say we just have to, unfortunately, wait it out and see. We have to see what's going to happen.
Sadly, that's all that
it's a waiting game.
Okay, let's take a look at the weaknesses. The focus on urban hubs risks neglecting smaller communities where grassroots development is most needed. Budget concerns, while promising proportional budget increase, the manifesto lacks clarity on securing funding for this ambitious project.
Exactly. This is what Toivo and I were speaking about earlier, that yes, there are all these promises, but where are the funds coming from?
We are just saying 5 million.
Exactly. Where's that money coming from? Are we going to increase national debt to get this money to allocate to wherever it is? But let's continue this conversation. For now, let's cross on over to the Irongo region and have Frida Malota update us on the situation that side.
Yeah, so my name is Ishmael Amayagele. I wake up almost 4 o'clock. Then I'm looking around in Swakop. People are wake up already, the line are too long. Me and my friend, we decide to drive from Swak to Hensby. Here the line is too long, but sure, we could wait until the elder are only the one coming and delay a bit, but we respect them. They can go in first, I really want to show my vote today. Then I'm happy. So, yeah.
Yes, so we came here to do our civic duty as patriotic Namibians, to vote. We drove all the way from Swakop. We were in Swakop, but it seems a bit full, the queues are a bit longer, so we could not miss this opportunity. We decided to drive all this way to Henry's Bay. I think here is much better. The organization is much better. Maybe the elders are coming in slow but surely, and it is good, and they are getting first priority. But it's keeping the queue not moving, but still good. People came here around. Some came early, some are still coming. But we are standing, we are waiting. We have to do it. We have to vote.
That is Frida Malota giving us an update from the Irongo and Kunene regions. It's so inspiring to see people going that extra mile. And this is quite literally, imagine driving from Swakopmund to Henties Bay just to go cast a vote.
We are in the econ right now.
Exactly.
And our respondents are doing the most.
They're doing the most.
Making sure that all of that is covered. Wow.
I mean, we were seeing earlier on, or rather there were reports earlier on that over in Kleiner Cooper, people actually had resorted to using cardboard boxes for shade. That's how hot it is, but that's how much people are willing to cast their vote. We were talking about manifestos earlier on. So let's move on over to Independent Patriots for Change. Strengths, again, grassroots. I think this is something that a lot of parties are focusing on.
Yes, I think the realization is there to see that, okay, not enough is being invested in the grassroots level of things. So that's why I see most of the parties are definitely focusing on grassroots. Yeah, continue.
Yes, by focusing on rural youth and broadening access to sports, the IPC aligns with inclusive development goals. And also, the proposed funding mechanisms could empower under-resourced sports bodies. Sports.
I think the focus, I don't know if it comes with points focusing on grassroots level, because that's what all the parties are doing. You know, in SA, when it's time for elections is when the babies are being kissed and all those other things. But yeah, everyone is focusing on the grassroots level growth and whatnot. But then if you look at the weaknesses, Diana, IPC's plan lacks specific targets or timelines, raising concerns about the depth of their commitment and execution strategy. Without direct investment plan, the party risks delays and dependence on external entities.
But you see, Brian, with something like that, without putting a timeline on it,
you
cannot be held accountable, because
you're playing it safe.
You're playing it safe because you're going to say no, but I didn't say in 5 years it's going to be done. I said it will be done. I just didn't specify when.
I didn't say yes. So you guys can't come for me and say, where's the stadium?
Exactly, because I said it is going to come.
I'm building.
I'm patience. You see, things like that.
Be it 10 years, be it 15 years, as long as it's done, I'm doing my job.
Again, a waiting game.
Yes, which now they've played it so safe, and they know what to say, I feel.
Yeah.
So it comes out right, but then you can't come for them and say, but you said this and you said this.
Exactly.
But they don't give, so it's
not having timelines is,
Their manifesto is a bit like, there's a lot of loopholes. There are a bit of things that we need answers to a lot of questions, I should say.
Like you're saying, playing it safe. Playing it safe. Moving over to Landless People's Movement. Strengths. The focus on localized academies is a strategic way to nurture talent and bridge gaps in national representation. And then, of course, the youth-centric approach, integrating sports into community development, reflects an understanding of the social benefits of engagement. Again, the youth.
Number one.
Because, again, the youth are actually, like, it's the demographic, I think, that has surprised a lot of people by going out to vote. So we have to, I guess a lot of these parties are saying, you know what, let's keep the youth happy.
But then everyone's focus is on the youth, but you and I touched on earlier that we need the government to step in. We need professional contracts for a lot of the sport codes, so that if people come out of school, let's say you've been playing a certain sport, you can directly just go pro or go professional, and you can earn a salary. So
again, curbing unemployment.
Another one. So
job
it's
creation.
Although the focus on youth is important, I understand, but it's not the only thing that makes sport grow. It's not the only factor, I should say.
Yeah.
If we take a look at the weaknesses, we're talking about LPM, right?
Yes.
So while regional academies are beneficial, a lack of national coordination could lead to inconsistencies and inefficiencies. The success of academies relies on equitable resource distribution, which could be challenging in unfunded regions.
You see, that's the thing now, Brian, with a lot of these academies that might be opened up and whatnot. What guarantee do we have that it's also going now to these underfunded communities? What if the focus is just on the privileged communities?
Yes.
What guarantee do we have?
We don't.
Exactly.
We don't. It's a thing of we'll have to wait and see.
It's a gamble.
It's really a gamble. We'll have to wait and see, because there's no guarantee. We do not have any guarantee that says we can do that,
Okay, but we'll be back to discuss some more manifestos. For now, let's cross on over to Philippus Joseph, as he is covering the Kavango East and West regions.
I am Maria Albano, presiding officer in Mokwe constituency, and my polling station at Divundu Correctional Center. Now the voting or the voters, they are fine. There's not anything which is disturbing us. Everything is going well. And the only thing I'm requesting in the public, we are only taking voters who are inmates and the staff in the correctional service. That's all. They are still young, let me say, not more than 10, less than that.
Just an update there, the Divundu polling station was actually only meant for inmates. Yes.
That's an interesting one.
It is very interesting, and I think it's one of those things that we know it needs to happen, but we didn't expect it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those like, okay.
We know it has to happen, but then you're like, Oh, you did that?
Oh, you did that? Oh, that's cool.
Okay,
That's great.
interesting.
That's cool. Okay, I'm glad that everybody's being included because everybody has that constitutional right to vote.
So it's good. It's good that they're having it at Tivundu, and I'm sure they're
Yes.
having it at other different places. But
Yes.
that inclusivity, making sure that
Yes.
everyone is involved at the table is very wonderful.
Exactly. All right, moving over to affirmative repositioning, better known as AR. The integration with urban planning. Again, if you haven't noticed the trend here, I'm focusing on the strengths. I'm more of a positive person, whereas Brian
It's more realistic.
It's more realistic. You're pessimistic.
I'm focusing on the weaknesses, yeah.
Yes, so AR's innovative proposal to incorporate sports facilities into new residential areas highlights a forward-thinking and sustainable planning. But even as I am saying this out loud, I'm like, okay. Health and community focus, linking sports to health and social cohesion, strengthens the broader impact of their initiatives.
This is the chat we were talking about. This is now where our whole sports debate started.
was focused,
the making sure that it's not just about physical health, it's also about mental health.
Yes.
And checking on the players. Look, fun fact, for example, a player like Peter Shalulile, who hasn't scored for the national team in more than like a year and a half as a striker. He was named the best striker in Africa at some point, or the best striker who plays in Africa. But now things are not looking that good. Yet everyone just expects you to just get up on the horse and just score goals.
Yes.
And if it doesn't work out, then you're not scoring, you're not doing your job.
You know, there was a player, was it in Zimbabwe? I'm forgetting his name now. Whenever he was playing and the crowd would be there like, you need to score, you need to score. He'd stop the game, step on the ball and be like, you can come and score. you can come. It's not as easy as it looks, so you can come.
Yeah.
You know, so he got into a lot of trouble for that.
You know,
but yeah.
But no one knows how he is doing, maybe mentally. That's the thing.
Because why is he not scoring?
Exactly.
Is it because it's a physical issue or is it a mental issue? Because again, that kind of pressure of being named the best striker who plays in Africa.
It comes with a lot. It comes with all the pressure.
All the pressure
and
is
you know
on you.
The media is ready to
attack,
eat you up
Yes.
at any minute
At any
where you
given
don't
point,
score.
yes.
So
And also, sorry, Brian, but there are also people that are trying to prove that you're not the best striker,
in the
you
world.
know.
Yes. So now the thing is, like we've had a lot of cases where, for example, let's say, now I'm not going to put the focus on men, but I'm just saying men who commit suicide or people who commit suicide, it's a mental thing.
Yes.
You most probably, no one is there for you, or you don't have someone that can help you mentally get over something.
Yes.
With sports, it's the same. If a player breaks his leg and is out for a year and a half and comes back, he just doesn't come back and
Just
start
like
firing.
that, yes.
It's a process. Mentally, you need to get back to where you were, and physically as well. So,
And this is now the role of psychologists and
Yes.
therapists. These are the important roles that they play, because again, what happens up here translates to, you know, the rest of your body.
Yes. So I think the fact that they are focusing on that, I think I like that about AR. But let's take a look at the weaknesses. Limited scale. The manifesto's urban-centric approach may fail to address rural sports development needs. Execution risk. Incorporating sports into urban planning requires collaborating with multiple sectors, which may slow the progress.
Do you think that this could be the reason why we haven't seen much development? Is this, like currently, is it because of this collaboration with multiple sectors?
Yes. I think it's a thing of, if we need this one, we need 3 people to make something work.
Yes.
Or we need to wait for or else we won't do this. I think it's one of the main reasons why a lot of things have not moved or progressed further, yes.
Okay, so I think the key points from this discussion were definitely ambition versus execution. Because it's one thing to be ambitious.
Yes.
It's another thing to actually execute what you're planning.
Execution is going to be for whoever wins, Diana. The only thing we can do is hope and see how it goes. And then we just need to have someone that holds people accountable.
Yes.
Or people just need to be held accountable and say, look, it's 4, it's 5 years, nothing has happened. What's the story there?
I understand. So let's briefly touch on this. Inclusivity in sports is a key issue, especially for women and marginalized groups. Do you think any political parties presented convincing enough plans to promote inclusivity in their manifestos?
That's a very good question. No. Not even one party, not even one party did, if I'm being honest, based off the ones that I read, the ones that I went through. If I take a look at that, none of the clubs, everyone is so focused on stadiums. Everyone is so focused
because that's the issue that everybody's complaining about. So it's like, okay, in a way it acts as a pacifier. You understand?
Okay.
Like once we give you this thing, then you'll stop nagging us about it. Do you understand though where I'm coming from? That it acts as a pacifier.
I get you.
It's like, okay, you know when a baby is crying, you just put a pacifier. Yeah, It's kind of like that. So and then they neglect all the other issues that are at hand because again, I would assume they think they're not serious enough. Like they think the other issues are not serious enough, or maybe it could just simply be a matter of urgency. Like this is what is urgent right now, so let's fix that first, and then later on we
move to the other
dive
things.
into other
but
things.
Then, don't you think if that's the case, then you still need to mention it. You still need to touch on it and say, look.
Once we do this, then we're gonna.
There's women in sports. We need to like I said, we spoke about cricket Namibia earlier.
Yes.
Contracted the players.
Yes.
Football, we need to see that also. There's a lot of sports that we still need to see that. So, that was a very good question, but nah, I don't think they touched on that well.
You don't think they touched on that well? All right. For now, though, let's cross on over to the Oshikoto region as Otjozondjupa region, as Aldo Horn is updating us on what's happening that side.
Hi, I'm today here at Sumap Secondary School to come vote. So people out there at home, please just come and vote so we all can vote.
Goedemorgen. Ik is Marijn Barthuizen en ik is hier bij de kindersecundaire school. Als senior worker van 70 jaar oud, lieve jong mensen, dis die moeite waard om te kom stem, dis julle vroeg, maar ook ouer persone en inteendeel as julle by kindersecundaire skool kom stem, is die baie hoë en groot bome vir skaduwee vir julle. Ongerus en geniet, dis heerlik.
We apologize for that. Aldo is actually in the Oshikoto region
of Chumep.
Yes. All right. So, Brian, it's been a wonderful day.
Oh, it's been a blast.
It's been a blast. We speak all things sports. And you know what's funny is you're literally moving from here to go do sport rap and talk more sports.
And do more sports. So
and
viewers,
do more sports.
Please do not move an inch. You guys will be joining me on Sports Rap now at 6 o'clock, where we will be talking more about sports, but not the political side of it, just sports.
From Diana Master and Brian Monango, we'll be seeing you again soon.